trend. Brand new trend. 5.0 is men elevating men. 5.0 is setting a new trend. 5.0, 5.0, 5.0. 5.0, 5.0, 5.0. 5.0, 5.0, 5.0. 5.0, 5.0, let's go. 4.0, let them hoes in the go.
Ain't she something? Sundress on with her hair in her
Every time we podcast with the blast back on your ass, let's go.
Physical, level 1, spiritual. That's just how my heart is one. Just let my love fall, and love will fall on you. I feel like I got one that I can show mama. You do. She counting that 12-inch roll, and we still be too deep. I don't know wrong for baby, just spread and see my love. I can spend a day out if you want. I can take you places wanna come. And I can spend all day until you down. Cause for you I got time. We ain't gotta ever see the sun. Got everything to turn you on. We can go all day until you down. For you I got time. I'm in the mood, I need your love. Come a little closer, baby. She be sending pictures to my phone. Now the one she posted in her clothes. Now we get nasty in my home. Comfortable and panties and no bra. She be getting mad when I take too long, but I gotta let you miss it. More, give you a push, be on the safe side. You know I'll be performing, I don't have stage fright.
Oh, wait a minute, hold on, let's run that back. Hold on, man. Good morning, good afternoon. Where you at, man? How's everybody doing today, man? Oh, man, what my boy say? What my boy say, man? Y'all listening, man, out there, man? Share the show, man. Perfect Timing Podcast, man. He said she be sending pictures to my phone. Now we getting nasty in my home. Now she getting comfortable like panties with no bra. Let me run that back, man. He said comfortable like panties with no bra. Huh? What the hell is this, man? Oh, man, Perfect Timing Podcast, man, with the blast on your ass, man. It is only me. It could only be me. Now, look. The bugs is going to happen. The things is going to happen, but we going to keep it snapping and cracking. Man, he said, she be sending pictures to my phone. Now we getting nasty in my home. Comfortable like panties and no bra. I said, God, dog, man, this boy going in, boy.
Sundress on with her hair in a gray. Something special.
I got time today, cuz we going in.
Level 1, spiritual. That's just how my heart is one. Just let my love fall, and love will fall on you. I feel like I got one that I can show mama. You do. She counting that 12-inch roll, and we'd still be too deep. But I don't know wrong for baby, just spread and see my love. I can spend a day out if you want. I can take you places wanna come. I can spend all day until you down. Cause for you I got time. We ain't gotta ever see the sun. Got everything to turn you on. We can go all day until you down. Cause for you I got time. I'm in the mood, I need your love. Come a little closer, baby. She be sending pictures to my phone. Now the one she posted in her clothes. Now we get nasty in my home. comfortable like pennies and no problem. She be getting mad when I take too long, but I gotta let you miss it. Right, more, give love push, be on the safe side. You know I'll be performing, I don't have stage fright. I give you head for me, for you in the morning. Breaking backs, bitch, just how you want it. Let me get off the phone, swerving lanes like a pro. Open door, nothing on, neighbors peek, give up a shot. Yeah, I'm nasty like that. Just how you like it, don't bad. I can spend all day now if you want. I can take you places, wanna come. I can take you places. I can spend all day until down. For you, I got time. We ain't gotta have a secret song. Got everything to tell you on. We can go all day until you down. For you, I got time. I can spend a day down if you want. I can take you places, wanna come. I can spend all day until you down. For you, I got time. We ain't gotta have a secret, son. Got everything to tell you on. We can go all day until you down. For you, I got time. Turn the lights on. I can take you there. Make it last on.
Perfect Timing Podcast with the blast, man. Is you ready, man? Turn the lights off. Man, I got time today, cuz. Hey, the other day, I didn't have time. But I got time today, cuz. Is you ready? Hey, I had to start that off right. That's Sebastian. That's like 3 years old, man. You got to be in your R&B bag. You really got to have some ism to have heard that song before or really put that song on. And watch someone, a beautiful woman that maybe admires you, just simply just fall in complete love with you. She already is admiring you. She already wants to be in your presence. She wants to have a good time. Then you put on this R&B vibe that she never heard before. And then it makes her feel even more relaxed. And you're not touching her, you're not pressuring her, and she just starts to relax. She might take off her shoes. She might take off her pants. Now we getting nasty in my home, comfortable like panties and no bra. She be sending pictures to my phone. Now we getting nasty in my home, comfortable like panties with no bra. I said I got to play that on my show. I got to play it. I got time today, cuz for you I got time. That's that falsetto. Shout out to Big Dennis. That's that falsetto, huh? With a falsetto, that's that falsetto. Cause for you, I got time. Shout out to my whole chat, man. I see the family in here. KP, Alonzo. I seen, who did I see in here? MG, make this go viral TV. Long time, no holla. You feel what I'm saying? Good to see you stopping through. Make sure you hit the like button. I know a lot of people be busy. I love the content creators who support the content creators. You come through, you say hello, hit the like button. I appreciate it, man. I understand if you can't stay and get the game because, you know, a lot of content creators, you don't want to listen to a lot of other people's show because you don't want to be, you know, you don't want to be influenced by their show. And my show is so powerful and so good. And today is going to be a very powerful show. Alonzo, KP, God is good. God know what he be doing. Let me pray real quick. God, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for this microphone. Thank you for this beautiful, positive, blessed feeling. We come to you today, Father God, humbly with eyes closed, heads bowed. We are so blessed. There's nothing that we want. There's nothing that we desire. You have given us every gift and ability to create and make magic and create the life that we have now. You've bestowed upon this powerful intelligence. We want to say thank you this morning. Father God, as I go into this calling, as I go into this vehicle that you've created for me, Father God, I want to give thanks. I want to be humble. I want to give reverence to those who come before me and have created this thing for us. Father, I want to say to you, thank you. I want to say a blessing and a covering I want to say a blessing in the covering. I'm going to play a video later. I'm going to say a blessing in the covering to all of those who truly love and support God and perfect timing. I pray success in all of your endeavors, safe travels during these storms and bad weather, safe travels on the highways and byways. These blessings are for you and all of the loved ones paying attention. Amen. So powerful show we got today. Big Daddy Beard Gaming in here. Big Daddy Beard Gaming in here. So powerful show. Today is the MMS show. Shout out to the MMS show. The MMS show is a vehicle I created. Music, money, and sports. It's been a lot of things going on here lately. You know what I'm saying? That I believe the three-headed guy, you know, in a lot of our comic books and movies, you got the dog with the three heads, you got the trilogy. So this is a three-headed monster that we're dealing with right now. Money, music, and sports. So when we talk about Tory Lanez, when we talk about the football player who just got hit on the field, check out my latest short where I showed the ambulance was not actually a true ambulance. And people are wondering, was that guy truly injured on the NFL? Because blacks don't watch the NFL no more. And then that guy on the Bills did that run back play. Everybody's wondering, was that a real play? It's sports, it's the NFL, the WWE. So that's why I created the MMS show platform. Because we pray to these gods. We pray to sports every Sunday. 49ers, we watching the NFL more than we go to church. Money, we go to work every day. We pray to the God of money. Music, these guys, these rappers, these comedians influence everything, right? So these are the three-headed gods that we need to destroy, right? I'm not in agreement with praying to these gods. I believe there's something better to do for men. I believe there's a journey to a pathos. I created this show to highlight certain things about money, music, and sports, and we can have a podcast and have an intelligent conversation about it. Jay Sean Random's in the building. Boy, it's crazy over there. Jay Sean, congratulations. I love you. I'm glad to see you. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. I know you got that brand new BMW looking so good over there in Germany. It's getting crazy over there, bro. I'm going to talk a little bit about a podcast. Jay Sean, God is good. I'm glad you're here. I'm going to talk about Joe Rogan's. We're going to react to Joe Rogan's recent podcast. Joe Rogan had a person on there who deals with demographics, who works with the DOD. Jay Sean, thank you for your service. Jay Sean is familiar with the DOD. And this person was talking a lot about what's happening, not to get too far ahead, but basically what he said, Jay Sean, is that Russia is going to be over in about, anywhere from 10 to 50 years. And China is going to be over anywhere in 10 years. So I'm going to talk about these things, but first I'm going to focus on the Young Thug and ATL case in the cartels. But I am going to react to Joe Rogan's show and what this demographic guy said about Russia not having, he said Russia was always going to go to war in 2022. The reason why Russia was going to go to war in 2022, because demographically, 2022 was the last year that Russia had enough 20-year-olds to go into the army. Remember, Jay Sean, we talked about the fact that in America, we don't have enough 18-year-olds who have good shape to enter into the armed forces and go into special forces. That's a reality that we've been dealing with. We've been changing protocols for women, for gays, for obesity. But what's ended up happening is we don't have the armed forces that we used to have. Now, in Russia, it's even worse. In Russia, in 2022 was the last year that they had numbers, not just weight, not just strength, not just women, but 20-year-old bodies. 2022 was the last year that Russia had enough 20-year-old bodies to make up an army. So if they didn't go to war in 2022, their population starts to die after 2022. The same thing is true in China. Y'all remember the fat emperor I taught you about. In China, they have something called the emperor syndrome, where the population in China is elderly. Everyone in China is 80 years old, and the next closest person is 12 years old. So you have 12-year-olds, they call them little fat emperors, and the next person is 80 years old. Well, in the next 20 years, well, to be honest, what this demographic person said, in the next 10 years, all of those 80-year-old people in China die. So China, there will be no more Chinese people in 10 years. Joe Rogan, what's up, hot sauce? Joe Rogan said, wait a minute, are we going to bomb him? Are we going to kill him? He said, no. The Chinese are going away in 10 years because of decisions with having one child, one male child, and everything that you learned about with the emperor syndrome, the 12-year-olds versus the 80-year-olds, where the 80-year-olds won't live forever. in China, the majority of their population are just going to get old and die. When they get old and die, they won't be able to maintain China. The billions of people, see, China imports 90% of their food. China imports 90% of their power. China is not self-sufficient. And all of those 80-year-old people are going to die. That's why China and Russia are acting the way they're going to act. If you haven't seen Joe Rogan's latest podcast, you got to check it out. Now, there are not enough girls. Hassan said there's not enough girls. There's not only not enough girls, but the population is more than 50% senior citizens. I'm not going to say 80, 90%, but that's the real numbers. Hassan, no, that's the real numbers. The population in China is more than 50% senior citizen. You cannot reproduce more Chinese people. That's a low estimate. That's not the real number. I'm just saying to you that over 50% in China are senior citizens. So this demographic guy said, just demographically, we don't have to fight them. We don't have to kill them. They're going to die off in 10 years. The same thing is happening in Russia. So I just want to say, Jay Sean, I love you, boy. Bless you. And Hot Sauce is over there in China. I love you. Bless you. Happy New Year. So I know you guys are seeing this real time. America doesn't understand. But I want to talk about something that I saw. I was sharing with my wife. I was excited because I do my podcast and I've been talking about Young Thug. And I said a prediction that came to be true, right? So I was excited to say to my wife, hey, look, I have a podcast. I said this, and now this demographic guy is backing up what I said. But then I took 2 steps back and I said to my wife, you know what? That's kind of selfish. I want to tell you about me being right. I should tell you about the circumstances that we are facing in the world, that in 10 years, China demographically will be no more, that Russia is possibly going to be forced into using nuclear weapons, because what's happening in the Ukraine is that we found out that Russia can't fight a war. Russia's army is not efficient. So Russia is actually losing in the Ukraine. People might say, yay, that's good. That's not good. Because Russia has the most nuclear weapons. And if Russia can't beat Ukraine in a ground war fight, then they damn sure can't beat NATO, because NATO trained the Ukraine army. Remember, I taught you about the Azov battalion, the Nazi battalion, and the other Wolf battalion who were trained by NATO armed forces. Remember, I told you that? Remember in the beginning of Ukraine, where that white boy went over to Ukraine and he was a military guy from America and he was training the Ukrainian armed forces? Germany now, where my brother Jay Shine is sending tanks to Ukraine. Ukraine has been on foot. The Ukraine hasn't been mobile in this fight. The Ukraine is going to get tanks from Germany and more training and support from NATO. Russia can't beat the Ukraine with that type of support, right? If Russia understands that they can't be Ukraine, they don't have the demographic numbers, then Russia and the world knows that they can never beat NATO. If Russia cannot beat Ukraine, they could never beat NATO. Do y'all know who NATO is? Do y'all know who the alliance is? See, a lot of people on YouTube be talking to you guys. You know, I'm an older guy. I'm over 50. And they talk to you and they don't really know about these things. But you should know who NATO is. You should know about the allied forces, the alliances. You would know about it in 9/11. Hey, Jay Sean, I'm going to take a quick tangent. Hey, Jay Sean, Hot Sauce. I was telling my wife about Rambo. My wife was born in 88. I'm old. I'm blessed. I got a young wife. I was telling my wife about Rambo. Not Rambo 2, not Rambo 3, but the first Rambo, First Blood. And I was explaining to her as I was talking about these wars, right? And I was explaining to her about why Sylvester Stallone made First Blood. I said, did you, because her father just passed away. Rest in peace to my Mrs. Perfect Thomas' father's birthday today. She's dealing with that. God bless his soul. I said, your father and those white men created gangs like the Hells Angels. This is relating to today, to the cartel and to the gangs. The Hells Angels were created by white men post-Vietnam because the people who came back from Vietnam did not get veteran benefits. They were not allowed to go to the VA. They could not get a VA loan. They were POWs. Vietnam was known as a military action, but not a war. Vietnam was not classified as a war until like 10, 20 years later. All those men who went to Vietnam suffered greatly. They became heroin addicts. They fueled the drug addiction. We need to talk about this as I get into the cartels and the YSL. So I told my wife, I said, you remember Rambo, right? First Blood. She's like, okay, the first Rambo was called First Blood. The first one wasn't even called Rambo. Sylvester Stallone made that movie in order to educate Americans on the struggle of POWs from Vietnam and that they were homeless and suffering in America after going to fight for us. And we were treating them like shit. They used to have marches, the whole bikers, the bikes and the vest that said POW and everything. How we did it for 9/11 is because we treated the people who came back from Vietnam like shit. So we treated the people who came back from Vietnam like shit. They didn't get veteran status for a long time. The problem we had with drugs and gangs and homeless, it was started with the way we handled the people coming back from Vietnam and the lies we told about Vietnam, the Agent Orange, all the things that happened, right? So First Blood helped this whole fight to get them to be treated as veterans and get their retirement. That's a quick tangent. I just want to share that with Hot Sauce and Jay Shine. You know, my wife is 30, and a lot of 30-year-olds don't know this story about Vietnam, the POWs, and them not being able to be called veterans for a long time, how propaganda was used, how propaganda was then again used to get them their veteran VA status. So that's a tangent I want to go on. I just want to share that just to set up where we're going today. Just to set up who I am, just to give you a basis of why you listen to the Perfect Timing podcast, of my frame of reference and my frame of mind, the vantage point I'm coming from, my understanding of these global geopolitic things, right? I'm not just talking out of my ass. How many people knew that the Vietnam vets were not actually vets? How many know that the first Rambo was named First Blood, and what the whole theme of First Blood was about? Rambo was a Vietnam vet who didn't get his benefits. How many people know that? No, I told her about that movie, Hot Sauce. I told her about that movie. Tom Cruise, born on the 4th of July. He piggybacked on First Blood. First Blood came out first. But the Vietnam vets, they were not veterans. America did this. To your father, to mine, she's a Sicilian. Her father is not black. These were white men. The Hells Angels are white biker gang. Who remembers the Son of Anarchy? Great show. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. The Son of Anarchy was a real show. The Hells Angels, the Mongols, the East Oakland. I'm going to get into this. The East Oakland gangs, that trifecta is real. I grew up in that trifecta in Northern California, with the biker gangs giving protection to drugs and guns, the Asian gangs, the black gangs, and the white biker gangs. We created crack in the Bay Area. Have y'all seen BMF? Have y'all seen Snowfall? Have you seen Freeway Ricky Ross? He came to Oakland to learn how to cook crack. The way we did and distributed crack cocaine from the San Francisco Bay Area is with the Hells Angels, ex-Vietnam vets who created a biker gang. Y'all didn't know none of this shit, did y'all? Okay, so let me get into a video that I did where I use my expertise of growing up in the inner city and all this shit that I've learned. And I know about history because in college and in high school, I took advanced history classes. I'm gonna be honest, Hot Sauce. A lot of the history classes that I took at the time in my 20s, I did not understand. I took good notes, I got good grades on my test, but I didn't understand the concepts until much later as a young man. I didn't understand America. I didn't understand civics until much later. I'm so thankful to my father for making me take those history courses. So I've been very passionate about the YSL and Tory Lanez cases. I've been passionate because what I understand about the law and what I understand about the problems with mental health between black men and black women. There's an issue with the case in Philadelphia with Meek Mill, the case in LA, and the case in Atlanta. They all have black female prosecutors. They all have broken the law. They all have prosecuted black men without the interest of justice and finding out the truth. In Philadelphia, she never wanted to find out the truth. She never was interested in justice. You should understand that by her bringing Meek Mill into the back room and asking him to be on the song and wanting to meet Nicki Minaj. She was not operating in the interest of justice and honesty, right? In Los Angeles, with Tory Lanez. The district attorney knew from the beginning, because of Meg Thee Stallion's lying to police, doctors, and television, there was no way a jury could get to the truth. You guys never heard this before, right? But in law, you are not supposed to take a case to trial if all of the evidence, the same thing happened with Bill Cosby. That's why Bill Cosby is free. If I look at the evidence as a district attorney, and because the person who's committing, who's saying this person did a crime has lied so much, I can't take the case to trial because I cannot present an argument to the jury where they are able to make a verdict 100%, and I can't get to the truth. It's so convoluted. Andrea Constance did not remember the day that this happened with Bill Cosby. The police officer interviewed her 6 times. Finally, he went to his supervisor, the district attorney, and said, hey, this woman wants to press charges against Bill Cosby. We've interviewed her several times. She continues to lie and make up stories. I don't feel comfortable arresting Bill Cosby because there's no way to get to the truth. Are y'all following me with Tory Lanez? I'm not comfortable with arresting Bill Cosby because there's no way to get to the truth. It would be against our constitutional right to put this in front of a jury when I know that she's lied. I would be putting a inference in front of the jury. There's no way to get the truth out of that. So they went to the district attorney, and Bill Cosby gave a statement because they could not, with the faith, and they passed the bar. They took an oath. I cannot prosecute Bill Cosby and put this in front of a jury because there's no way to get to the truth. She doesn't know what happened, and she's lied. I can't trust her story. I can't put that story in front of the jury because there's no way to get to the truth. The same thing is true with Meg Thee Stallion, but this black DA did it anyway. And in Atlanta, I'm going to play this video. I'm going to play my video. In Atlanta, a black district attorney, she arrests 31 black men. She arrests 31 black men. Now, out of those 31 black men, if you've been paying attention, from the beginning, I was upset at the fact that she made so many arrests. But as the case went on, she refused to give the 2 main people in the case bail. Jeffrey and Sergio could not get bail. She said she couldn't give Jeffrey Young Thug bail, Sergio Kitchens Young Gunner bail, because they were murderous, felonious racketeering, and they could murder, and they had been murdering, and I need protection as a black woman district attorney because black men hate black women, and they might murder me and murder witnesses. Y'all remember that, right? They may murder me and murder witnesses. So I don't feel comfortable with giving them bail, and the judge agreed. The judge agreed to not give them bail. But wait, months later, we hear about some alien plea deals with 15 years probation, 7 months served for people charged with attempted murder and racketeering. And I start thinking, I thought you were afraid of these young black men. I thought you were fearful of these young black men were going to murder you. Why would you release them in 7 months? Why would you put them on 15 years probation if they were felonious murderers and racketeers? But you released them in 7 months? I thought you were fearful that they would murder witnesses. They can murder witnesses now. I thought you were fearful that they would murder you as a district attorney. They can murder you now, but they're free. I said that this is something to do with the black women and their mental health and their issues with black men and how they're being manipulated. That's what I said. And I said, to prove my point, I'm going to play this video to prove my point. Can't pay police. That's why I brought up what I brought up about sheriff in LA. You can't fix these water problems. They've been without water for 5 days. They don't have the employees. In Mississippi, they said I need $1 billion. In Mississippi, they ain't got the money yet. Do y'all know I got family in Mississippi? They still ain't got their water fixed. Y'all think this water gonna be fixed? Mississippi still ain't got their water fixed. Alabama still ain't got their water fixed. Flint still ain't got their water fixed, y'all. She arrested 31 men. She lied about the warrant. She put forth a RICO case that the feds wouldn't back her up because the feds didn't want to pay the bill. The feds didn't want to clean up this mess from Atlanta. You know why? Another reason why the feds didn't come in on this case? Think about what I said. They said that these guys were so dangerous, but they let them out, all of them, attempted murderers, all of them in 7 months. You know what my biggest beef? You know what my biggest beef is about this Atlanta case? Is that the lie they told about these guys being dangerous and that this would help, and all the lies that the other blacks in Atlanta told. They robbing it at Bankhead. They robbing at the mall. You can't go nowhere in Atlanta. They robbing and killing everywhere. No one was being honest about what the real problem is in Atlanta, Chicago, and Los Angeles. I said it. It's the cartels. How is she allowed to pin the problem of what's going on in these black inner cities on these young black men who are doing the right thing? They may have made some mistakes, but they're not the cartel. In the Big Meats saga, in the Big Meats story, in the Big Meats, everything you watch that's Big Meats, and you go back to everything that BMF made, the one thing that they say in the story that Big Meats says himself in interviews is that the cartel wanted him out of Atlanta. And when he wouldn't do business with the cartel, the FBI indictment came. And when Big Meats left, the FBI even said that when Big Meats left, it left a vacuum and an opportunity for the cartels to come in, as if they wasn't going to do anything, that they couldn't stop the cartels, and the cartels would just come in and sell drugs in America with permission from the FBI and the CIA. In the BMF side, of what you learned about why they went to Atlanta is for distribution. Southwest T was a driver. And when they got to Atlanta, it wasn't about the party scene, it was about the freeways. And in Atlanta, they could get to anywhere in the country because of the unique freeway system set up and the hubs for the trucks and the airplanes being in Atlanta. It was designed that way to help facilitate business. This freeway system, this is an international system in Atlanta that's set up for distribution. I don't have to set up the distribution lines. If we move to Atlanta, there's distribution already in place. That's why they moved to Atlanta, for distribution. That's what made them billionaires. They went to Atlanta to distribute the coke. They got the plug. If you listen to the movie, they got the plug in the D. They got the plug in the Detroit. They went to California with the plug. Why did they set up shop in Atlanta? For distribution. The ability to distribute. Southwest T, they use limos, they use cars, they use trucks, and they distribute it out of Atlanta because all the freeways you can get to anywhere in the country quickly. Just like, because these are the routes that the truckers would take. My problem with this whole case is that she lied. They're not a gang, they're not dangerous, and this doesn't solve the problem for people who are in danger in Atlanta. This is the worst thing about this. This doesn't stop the cartels. There's 1,500 illegal grows in California. Each one is $1 million. That's $1 trillion industry. That's so much power and influence that we've allowed in our country. It's no longer America, y'all. That boy good. Boy, that boy good, man. That boy good, man. Hey, that boy good, man. Hey, that boy good, man. That boy good, man. That's Perfect Timing Podcast right there, man. With the blast, man. Hey, I'm simulcasting live on 3 channels right now. I'm on Perfect Timing Podcast, Perfect Timing Podcast Live. That's my backup YouTube channel because you niggas is hoes. Oh, you niggas is hoes. Yeah, man. I'm also live on Facebook Live, and I created a Rumble. Let's get ready to rumble. I'll put the link in the chat before we bounce, man. Hey, Tracy, if you in the building, please put that referral link in the chat. Mrs. Perfect Timing Ken, if you in the building, please put that referral link to Rumble. And I'm going to be doing my live streams on Patreon. The Patreon is in the ticker. Subscribe to Patreon. It's $10 a month. You broke motherfucker! Boy, that boy good. That boy good. That boy good. Hey, that boy perfect is good. Check this out. I said that funky motherfucking DA in Atlanta ain't shit. I said the cartels is the problem in Chicago, LA, and Atlanta. Where they getting the choppers from? When they getting the sticks from? Where they getting the coke from? I said the cartels. Now, this was from my I said the cartels was the true problem based on my research as a journalist, as an investigative reporter. I based it on what Big Meat said out of his mouth. I've been to Atlanta. I've based it on what I know about drug and crack distribution. I've distributed cocaine, allegedly. So I based it on that. And I knew that she was lying. I knew that YSL was not a gang because I saw the video where Lyle Cohen, the head of YouTube Music, gave Young Thug the label. It's a product. YSL is a product named after Yves Saint Laurent, a female fashion house. Young Thug was what is the word? Like Prince and Michael, Androndria, where he would play with his gender and wear a dress. So of course his record label would do the same thing. Young Thugger Girl, young beautiful Thugger Girl. He's always playing on gender and sexuality. That's his shtick. That's why he wore the dress. YSL is an extension of that. It's marketing. YSL came from a marketing department. YSL is an extension of that. It's marketing. It's not a gang. It wasn't created by Young Thug or Young Thug's brother in the streets of Atlanta. That is fucking laughable. YSL was created in the think tank of 300 by Lyle Cohen and Kevin Liles, who created a lot of successful products. YSL is a successful record company. Gunna was a #1 artist. It's not truly Young Thug's label. It belongs to Lyle Cohen and Kevin Liles. That's why Kevin Liles came to court. Young Thug is just the black face. It's not Young Thug's product. It's not, right? He's just the face on the product. So now I'm going to play for you the backup of what happened, that why I went live today. So I said that she lied. YSL is not a gang. And the issue, and this is the biggest thing, that the problems in LA and Chicago and Atlanta won't stop with these black women in politics and leadership roles, because we haven't dealt with our mental health issues. Hafez had a debate with Just Pearly Things. Hafez says, in the black manosphere, we focus a lot on the black women, but the problem is not just women. The problem is men and women. It's a twofold issue. The mental health issue that we're having in our, and as American black Negroes, is not unique to women. It's not. And what I like what Hafez said, because 90% of the content is putting down women and putting down marriage. And it doesn't address the mental health crisis of the men. My show, The Perfect Timing Podcast, The Journey to Apothos, I created it to help with those mental health issues for men, to speak to my brother, to speak to my son, to speak to those mental health issues in men. You have these black female district attorneys. Now think about this Young Thug case. I'm freestyling because my numbers went down, and I don't want to play the video till I got people watch. I guess it started freezing because of the we dealing with a storm out here, y'all, in California. We dealing with a storm out here in California, so my internet been messing up. My internet been messing up, and I got a lot of trolls. I don't know why, but you know, as I've been dealing with the troll issue, I've been doing a lot of introspective thinking. And this podcast I saw yesterday helped me a lot, because there's something going on with black men like myself. There's a game being played. It's a sick, twisted game when you realize the facts. If you watch the Joe Rogan podcast, it's a very sick and twisted game, because with the facts that he gave us in that podcast, that the demographics in Russia and China and what's going to happen in America in the next 10 years, in this decade, what's happening now with the soft girl and women realizing that they need men, it's going to only intensify. Things will get harder. Everyone will need to be a farmer again. Joe Rogan said, what's going to happen to China? He said, these places will go back to what they were in the 1800s. People will be living in huts. China will be like Africa, right? And America will not be the same America. America will be better off than China in a lot of places. Over the next 25 years, we're going through a great change. I won't be here in 25 years. In America, the same thing I said about a China is true in America. In America, this is the first time ever in America where we have more retirees than we have young people. It's just like China, but except for China and Italy and Russia has been dealing with this for 70 years. Slowly, their population has been getting older and older and older and older. These things I'm telling you are not new to anyone who lives outside of the Western America. Italy, this has already been a problem in Italy and places like China. They have been getting older and older. No more young Italians makes the population. Now they got hit by COVID. Italy is going to be in the same place as China, where they're not going to be able to make more Italian people because there's not enough young Italians. The population has been getting older and older and older for the past half a century. Let me bring up this video. But it's been very difficult with the knowledge that I gained. It's just difficult, period, right? Keeping the podcast going because I want to educate people. I like doing the podcast. It's fun for me. It's like when I was lost, I found this thing. I was lost and I found my podcast. I got the name perfect. This year, I'm just going to really take it more serious than ever to where I cannot be pigeonholed by YouTube. I don't care if I got one person watching me because I love this. I love doing it. I believe this is my calling and what I was called to do by God. So I can't do this with YouTube going forward. I saw Cali Muscle talk about he got to 3 million and he said these young kids got 3 million in 6 months. I've been on YouTube 15 years. I put out great content every day. I should be at 15 million, 20 million subscribers. And I said, man, Cali Muscle, that was very brave of you to say that. He's right. He said 3 million ain't shit. I've been doing this for 15 years. YouTube don't like me. YouTube don't like black men. Same thing with Corey. But the worst thing about YouTube is not the fact that YouTube don't like black men. That's obvious. YouTube does not support black content creators. I'm gonna do a video about the top YouTube content creators for the past 10 years, or since the YouTube was created. They've all been white males. Mr. Beast, PewDiePie, they've all been white males, white, blonde, Logan Paul. There's something of all the top YouTubers since the creation of YouTube. And CoffeeZilla, you don't do this type of content because you're not black. You don't understand because you benefit from it, the system also. White men always complain about shit, but they love to benefit from whiteness. All the top YouTubers since the creation of YouTube have always been white men. You cannot point to a female who's had 100 million YouTube subscribers. There's a couple females, but they're always attached to these white men. Now, white men have said they don't create culture. Joe Budden, look at Clubhouse, look at Snoop Dogg with Instagram. White men do not create or dictate culture. Look at MGK. Look at Eminem. But despite white men not being the coolest, not creating culture, none of these guys rap, none of these guys dance, none of these guys act. These are grab ass white boys. When I went to school with white boys, the coach would say, stop playing grab ass. Remember Jackass, where he would slap his father and do stupid shit? He's homeless now. That was never funny. Bam Margera, he got to be a multimillionaire by slapping his father and disrespecting his mother on camera. And MTV gave him millions of dollars, and we have a generation of kids who go to schools now and shoot up the school. I believe that came from Bam Margera and Jackass. These white boys who never got disciplined, who never got told no, who got to slap their mama, call their mama a bitch, and then when they got upset, they went to school with a gun and shot up the school. That's what happened. So YouTube, how can we say there's an algorithm? Corey, the YouTuber who got 14 million subscribers, already exposed it. They don't like black content creators and they favor white content creators. They took down a video of mine, they took down a video of his, but they let it be up on a white content creator. And when they got caught on it, no, I haven't heard anything about the Corey video. When Corey exposed YouTube for being racist, all of the black men still fight. All of the black men in this space are still fighting each other. None of us has spoken with Corey. No one in the black manosphere, not Crew Season, not Lapeef, not Antoine, that bitch ass nigga from Detroit. No one has sat down with Corey to discuss the racist practices of the YouTube algorithm. But you niggas say you manosphere, and you niggas think you're gonna be successful on YouTube. Antoine did a show with Just Pearly, and this shit get taken down, and now he wanna be on Rumble. Because your bitch ass don't know about cooperation and collaboration. Why haven't you interviewing Charleston White? A fucking minstrel show. For clicks, you interviewing Charleston White, a fucking minstrel show. You could be talking to Corey about YouTube's racist practices and really do something for black content creators, you piece of shit. I'm freestyling because my numbers went down, so I don't know if there was something wrong with my internet. Shit, my numbers went down. I had a few people in here watching. I'm going to go ahead and play the video. I might play a little bit more and react a little bit more to this Joe Rogan. So before this video, I played my video where I talked about the district attorney in Atlanta and her lies. Now, listen to this. Young Thug had 65 RICO charges, 65 charges. He's going to trial with 6. Young Thug is going to trial with 6 out of 65 charges. And the feds never came in. They're never coming in. Why, Perfect, is Young Thug going to trial with only 6 out of 65 charges? Because the district attorney lied and broke the law again and again and again. His lawyer asked for a dismissal. The case should be dismissed. What do you mean, Perfect? All the bloggers have said, what about that house? What about the additional charges? Young Thug only has 6 charges and the murder is gone. Why? Because everything at the house is gone. It's fruit of a poisonous tree. That's why he has 6 charges, because they lied about the warrant to go to Hertz, to get the Hertz car. About the attempted murder, no one was even hurt. But they lied about the warrant. That was 10 years ago. They lied about the warrant. They lied about the rental car. That linked Thug to a murder. That was a lie. So there's no murder charge for Thug because they lied. Black police officers, black investigators. This is Wakanda. Wakanda, right? Black chief of police, black police officers, black judge, black district attorney lied on Jeffrey, another young black man who was a multi-millionaire running $1 million business with $1 million artist. Well, they lied to get the warrant. Blacks, not white, man. I said on a comment, I said, if this case in Atlanta was white, if this was a white district attorney, a white judge, and white police officers who had lied about the warrant, how would you all feel? Because some people might not agree with my summation. But if this case in Atlanta was a white district attorney, a white judge, a white chief of police, how would you feel? That they lied to get all of the evidence, that the whole case was based on a lie. Would you not be arguing for a dismissal? And that they held Gunna and Jeffrey illegally to coerce them to give plea? It's slavery. These black people have enslaved these black men. Gunna is not a street dude, and everyone's calling him a snitch. Gunna could commit suicide or get killed. And it's embarrassing to any white person who is a lawyer or a police officer. See, Jay Sean, I work in areas with affluent whites, lawyers and doctors. There's a white man that I work with who is looking at this case and saying, Dennis, if I was the judge, Black Lives Matter would be protesting outside. Everyone, I haven't said this, but everyone in the YSL case has said it's been sloppy. Everyone in the Tory Lanez case said it's been sloppy. The Fed from Fresh and Fit said the feds won't come in because it's a sloppy indictment. The lawyer said you need to have a perfect indictment. The Fresh and Fit said in the federal FBI, you got to have a perfect indictment. Everyone who's assessed the case has said this has been sloppily done. It's so sloppy that they had to wipe off over 60 charges. 65 charges. He's only going to trial with 6. That's how sloppy the case was. These officers should be prosecuted. The DA should be prosecuted. And there's one more thing with this video I'm going to play. It's a lie. It's a lie. YSL is not running Atlanta. YSL is not controlling the guns and the drugs and the violence in Atlanta, which is why they were so confident in letting them go. Now I'm going to play the video. Despite my numbers going down, I'm going to play the video just to solidify my perspective today of what's happening in America. And this, I need you guys, I hate that they took my numbers down because I need you guys to know this for your sons, for your brothers, when these black women, because everybody, all the youngsters are saying, it's RICO season, it's snitch season. 2023 is a year of the RICO. Oh, they're going to get this rapper on the RICO. They're going to get this rapper on the RICO. But no cartel, no investigation into the cartel. It's RICO. I'm going to get clicks. I'm going to be a famous YouTuber. RICO, snitch. Black people snitch. Black men like to snitch. This is academics. This is every other blogger, 1090 Jake. Black men snitch. All you niggas are snitches. You niggas are snitches. Everyone's RICO. Gunners getting 20 years. Thugs getting 20 years. But I don't hear academics, 1090 Jake. I don't hear 21 Jumper. I don't hear Seti Nash. I don't hear no one talking about the RICO. I don't hear none of them talking about the cartel. Seti Nash supposed to be a gangster. Seti Nash, King AK, y'all supposed to be gangsters. Why y'all ain't talking about the cartel? Why y'all ain't telling the real source of the violence, the guns, and the drugs? You gangster? I thought you was a gangster, Seti Nash, King AK. Why I'm the only one talking the truth about what happened to Takeoff, what happened to Tory Lanez? You niggas are supposed to be so smart and so gangster. Fucking... Y'all pay attention.
As a business is being broken up. If you remember El Chapo.
That's the good cartel?
Yeah, remember El Chapo, Sinaloa cartel?
Yeah.
He thought of himself as a Korean conglomerate president. So it's like, we smuggle drugs. That's our business. You don't mess with things that mess with the business. So you don't trip the old lady. You don't steal her purse. You don't shoot at the cops. These are people who live where we operate. We want them to be on our side. So maybe even throw a party every once in a while. You focus on the business. We got El Chapo. We removed him from circulation. The guy who died or got captured yesterday was his son, one of the Los Chapitos. And his cartel, as a result, is fracturing because his leadership's gone. The replacement cartel is Jalisco New Generation. They're led by a former Mexican military officer who thinks that rather than don't shit where you sleep so that the people on your side, whenever you move into a town, you shoot it up. You do kick over the old lady. You do take her purse. You make the people scared of you. That's the point of this. Drug running is a side gig. We are here to be powerful. And drug running is just one of the ways we make that happen. And he has taken the fight to every cartel and the Mexican government. And they're in the process of trying to break into the United States.
Break in what? Economically?
Yeah. El Chapo and the Sinaloa became the largest drug trafficking organization in America under the Obama administration. And one of the reasons our birth rate went down so far so fast is they basically either co-opted or killed American.
El Chapo became the biggest gang in America under President Obama. Basically either co-opted or killed American gangs. Listen to the timeline. I'm going to put the link in the chat because I know people want to chop it up.
Or co-opted or killed American gangs. So they killed the people who were doing the killing. Not a lot of Americans got killed after that. All of the other cartels control the access points to the United States, but Jalisco New Generation now is challenging every single one of them, trying to break through. And if they do, and they bring their business acumen, if you will, north of the border, they're going to start killing white chicks named Sheila in Phoenix. And then we're going to have a very different conversation in this country about the drug war and about trade with Mexico.
So when you say that they've killed the gangs, like in what way? Because that is an interesting thing that you don't hear a lot about American gangs anymore.
Well, that's because they're not there to the same degree. So the Sinaloa, they co-opted the Hispanic gangs, especially the Mexican gangs, because there wasn't a language barrier there. And they really targeted and gutted a lot of the African American gangs. They took over drug smuggling and distribution from them to deny them income, and then they just shot a lot of people.
This what makes me discouraged because my numbers went down so much. And this is such a powerful thing. I don't know how many people watch Joe Rogan. I don't know how many people have the intellect to understand what this man just said. Now, Joe Rogan's going to ask him another question coming up about when this happened and when this took place. You guys have to understand that the district attorney of Atlanta, the district attorney, the mayor, the black female mayor of Chicago, they get reports. Jay Sean, I don't know if you're still here. I know you're busy, but I love you for hanging out. The mayor in Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, the district attorney in Atlanta, they get reports from the FBI. They know this. Now, pay attention. Now, Jay Sean and Hot Sauce, some of you guys might already know the next thing he's about to say, but I gotta pray. God, give me strength. Father God, give me strength. Thank you, God, so much. I love my grandmother. I miss you, Grandma. I miss you, Mama. Thank you for giving me this tutelage to go to you in prayer in times like this. People might think of it as a weakness, but I think of it as meditation, a way to recharge. I remember that lesson you gave me on LeBron James, and when he had to make that last shot and he just put his head down, put a towel over his head, he said he was meditating, but I know, Father God, he was praying. He said he came out of that meditation brand new. And I know I'll come out of this prayer renewed. Thank you, Father, for your blessings. Amen. So let's get back to the video. I put the link in the chat if anybody want to chop it up. Let's get back to the video. It's very important. This guy is explaining my theory and demographics. I basically said that LA, Chicago, and all inner city black areas are being run by the cartel. And that's why the lady in Atlanta should be arrested. And we should be more upset about what's happened to Young Thug in Atlanta and these 30 black fathers. Because she knows the truth about what's going on in Atlanta and why the violence has created an uptick. And now he's telling us, backing up what I've been saying. But no, my podcast got like 3 views. But the thing is that black people, if you realize that Chinese people are going away, you know what I kept thinking about, Jay Sean and Hot Sauce? What happens to the American Negro? The American Negro male. I don't think we understand how much that I think if we were like turtles, they would say, you guys are on a genocide. I mean, you guys are on an extinction. Just like China, and in the next 25 years, there may not be any more American Negro males. The people who created jazz. The people who invented electricity. There may not be any more George Washington Carver, Dr. Charles Drew. That's not being talked about. Everybody heterosexual is incarcerated in gangs. Everybody else is emasculated. What will happen in this hard times that's coming, where you're going to have land and farm in order to eat? But America will have the ability to farm because we can grow food. China can't grow food. Their soil is depleted. Brazil's soil is depleted. Russia's soil is Siberia. It's frozen tundra. They can't. This is why they're going to go through what they're going to go through, because they don't have an ability to cultivate enough food to feed all of the people, the billions of people there. So what happens to the American Negro male that's left? Because just listen to what he said. They've been gutted out by the cartels, and to this day, there's a black woman trying to get rid of the rest of the black men in Atlanta. The other black men in Atlanta, because there's no more gangs, there's nobody hanging out in Atlanta, San Francisco, nowhere. They've been murdered by the cartel. And the rest of the few black men left, there's a black woman who's doing the job of the cartel. That's what this show is about, even though nobody's watching. Back to the video.
And when did this take place?
That happened during the 2000s. It was pretty much completed by the time we got to 2013.
But we were.
Did y'all hear that? That's enough to stop the show right there. He took a drink. I'm gonna take a drink. I'm gonna light me a motherfucking blunt. Ain't nobody watching. I'm about to light my joint. I got a blunt and a joint somewhere. I got a blunt. Here it is. I got a blunt and a joint. Which one should I light? The blunt, or I'm about to light me a blunt. Yes, I am. 2013. I know, because I grew up on the streets. I've been telling my wife about the Kevin Gates ass niggas from 06 and all these niggas, these fake ass niggas that's on YouTube and rapping and everything. These niggas ain't gangster, blood. They lying to y'all. Ceddy Nash, King AK, all of them are lying. They ain't never been Jay Sean. Who was in here earlier, got shot 5 times. My brother Alonzo Hall. They never been on the block. He said he got shot in front of his mama. My mama 5'10". They ain't never had mamas like ours, Alonzo, Jay Sean. They ain't never been on the block like us. It was 50 niggas on every corner in the 90s. It was 50 brothers on every corner in San Francisco. And then we would go to Oakland, and you go to East Oakland. You go to North Oakland, it's 50 black men. And they all gone. Where they go? Where they go? What's up, bro? How you doing? Happy New Year, happy holidays. Much love to you and the family, moms and the wife. Everything good to see you, bro. Can't hear you. You muted? Let me unmute you.
Oh, my fault. I said salute, happy New Year. Thanks for having me up. I was doing some work in the back, and I was overhearing, the black women that's taking out the cartels and the black cartels, and it's funny that that you mentioned that. So real quick, I don't know if you know, but recently I have moved up in position in my firm. I'm now a managing associate.
Man, congratulations, salute.
Thank you. And with that came more responsibility. So I've hired about 4 sub-agents. 4 agents now work under me. One of those agents is a young lady who is from California. And she's from I can't remember what neighborhood, but something Piru.
Okay.
And we was literally having this conversation today because she was like, I'm a square, but my mama was hard body gangbanging, and she was like, you heard of like the Nun Sisters? Yeah. Well, that's my family. I was like, oh shit. So she was like, yeah, I'm like, they like bang till they die. And it's funny that you mentioned the destruction of the cartels. One of the things that I noticed is that we as brothers in the black community have been crippled by a lot of cartels in a lot of other areas. So I tell this story. I'm gonna bring up
you talking about the banking cartels? Hold on, Alonzo. See, this is too good. It's other type of cartels. Go in, brother. Banking cartel. How many black banks are owned? Huh? Okay. Teach them. Go ahead, brother.
20 black banks. There's one black financial money management firm that partners with Charles Schwab. It's called Ariel Investments. ARIEL.
One. What's that? What did that billionaire do? The Robert dude. He was on Earn Your Leisure. I thought he had something. He's a venture capitalist. What is he? A VC or what does he do?
He's probably an angel investor, venture capitalist. But that, as a venture capitalist, you're pretty much out on your own, right? But like Ariel Investments for the last 25 years has partnered with Charles Schwab because they couldn't get enough of us to invest with them. So they had to go piggyback off of Charles Schwab's name. And Charles Schwab is the reason that Ariel Investments is as large as they are now, because we had to use their name. But one of the things with the Colombian cocaine cartel and life insurance.
Right? $80 million. Oh, you, bro. Okay, let me take a little tangent so you can have this in your cap. You got to watch this podcast. In Colorado, me and you talked about this. The weed stores are legal, but they're still not legal on the federal level. So to the banking cartel conversation, they can't go to banks.
Right.
So in Colorado, for safety, because they were the first state to go legal with marijuana. In this interview, he's from Colorado, the demographics guy. He said, you know what the banking system did in Colorado? They said, we're going to hire armored vehicles to come to all of the weed clubs, pick up your money, and give you a digital bank for you to spend out of. And guess what the cartel said? Oh, wait a minute. Colorado is legally laundering money? So guess what the cartels have been doing? Buying weed clubs in Colorado to launder drug money. When the armored truck picks up the money from the weed club, they just say we made this off of selling weed, but it's actually cartel money. It gets deposited into a American bank, washed, comes back as digital currency to spend without any trace. That's just a little sidebar of what's happening in Colorado and how the cartels, just like what they did in insurance, they keep finding ways in vehicles to clean the money.
Can I tell you something funny?
Man.
So, because I got this new position, I have agents. None of the agents that I have that work under me are even on the East Coast. One's in Illinois, one's in Georgia, one's in California. You know what the fourth one is?
Where? Colorado.
Colorado.
Come on. Yo, this cartel thing is not a joke. He said this cartel is moving into the United States. But what he's actually said is that this cartel has taken over criminal activity in the United States. Criminal activity used to be run by the Italians. People may say it went to the Asians. Right now in 2023, the criminal activity in the United States in all major cities is being run by these cartels. I was wondering, me and you had this conversation before, where are these fully automatic weapons coming from? Where's everything coming from? Because I know the young guys on the block right now, they don't sell dope like we used to sell dope. No one has $5,000 in their pocket. No, the chains and the jewelry they got from stealing. We used to make $5,000 a day. No one has $5,000 in their pocket. The gun that they have costs $1,500, but that's not the thing. What I've always said, me and you know this, the real guys know this. So what, you got the gun. You know what the most difficult thing was for us on the block? Artillery. I mean, the shells. They could trap the shells. You could find the gun, you could steal a gun, you could get a gun any type of way. And there's guns everywhere in America. We got the most guns, but you know what's not easy to get? You know how many killers walking around with 3 bullets, but you scared of him because he might put them 3 bullets in the gun and kill somebody. And he's done it before. He had 4 bullets yesterday, but he can't get more bullets. This is a reality. If you're really from the hood, see, so many people talking on YouTube is not from the hood. They think everybody running around with 30 clips and drums and everything. No, those are bullets inside of those cinnamon buns. Where did you get them from? And they're expensive. And during COVID, they became very scarce and more expensive. Allegedly, because I don't have a gun, I don't shoot people, but during COVID, you couldn't find 9mm shells. That's the most popular gun. You couldn't find some of these shells. The white boys got them stockpiled.
My brother got them stockpiled.
Who?
My brother.
Oh, your brother. Okay, I'm about to say, not no brothers in the hood. Not but not no brothers in the hood ain't stockpiling no.
Man, listen, here's the thing, right? So even when you go further, right, because I am NRA certified, right, as is my brother. That's why he has the AR-15 and everything. Most dudes in the hood are just getting a full metal jacket, right? It's just a regular metal slug. Hollow tips, talk about expensive. Hollow tips are even more expensive.
And that's they got newer shells. They got
the federal shells.
They got stuff with the blue tips. We was getting all type of shit from the Chinese. Hollow tips, that's what we had in 94. They got some shit. They got Vipers and they got all type of shit with blue different names.
Incendiary shells.
All type of, but we ain't gonna get into that because I don't really know about that stuff. I've seen it on TV. I've never experienced it in real life myself.
Then you got P+, P+, P. So P+, what that is that's the grains of gunpowder that goes into the shell. Now, depending on what happens is when you're looking for more stopping power, which by the way, now the popular gun with gun enthusiasts, it used to be the 40 cal was the small big gun, right? So you could really blow.
It's the FN. He talks about the FN because it can go.
Not even the FN anymore. It's a 10 millimeter.
Oh, that's new.
So
Because
now
what he talks about, what the cartels are using and what the kids have in America is the FN, which you hear because it can go through armor, and they use. I'm not gonna say why they use it, but that's why they use the FN, because they're going to war with people who are actually not, next level type stuff.
Yeah,
right?
They got armors and stuff, but
correct.
10 millimeter has more stopping power than a 40 cal, and 40 cal used to be like, so you would have your 9 millimeter, then you have your little 38, which we would call a girl gun, but 38 got some stopping power. Excuse me,
Saturday Night Special.
380 got some stopping power. 38, okay, but 380's got some stopping power. It's just small. 9 millimeter stopping power, P plus or plus P ammo, real stopping power. Let alone the types of shells, like you said, blue tips. The cop.
Yeah, all that good stuff. Yeah.
So all those, I study deep into stuff when I study it, man. And now the FN was like a video game gun that they made real.
Correct.
And so that's why the FN is super. I think you was breaking that down.
Yeah.
That you was like, yo, the FN, like that somebody made it for a Fortnite or something, and then they made it to a real gun.
This is the life we're living in 2023. We're in a video game.
Video game all the way.
We're in a video game. So by 2030, listen to what he said. I want to play it again. Because this is genocide. This is genocide. Hey, what's up, Tracy? I want to play it again. This is genocide, and no one is talking about this. This is genocide. And he said it very lightly. He took a drink of water. But this is my brother, your brother, our cousins. You know what I'm saying? This is genocide. And
killed the gangs, like in what way? Because that is an interesting thing that you don't hear a lot about American gangs anymore.
Well, that's because they're not there to the same degree. So the Sinaloa, they co-opted the Hispanic gangs, especially the Mexican gangs, because there wasn't a language barrier there. And they really targeted and gutted a lot of the African American gangs. They took over drug smuggling and distribution from them to deny them income, and then they just shot a lot of people.
And when did this take place?
That happened during the 2000s. It was pretty much completed by the time we got to 2013.
But we were
Compton, city of Mexicans pulling triggers on.
No, please. We got to break this down.
City
Compton.
of Mexican pulling triggers on niggas.
And he takes a drink of water. He takes a drink of water talking about our genocide. And now there's a black female DA in Philadelphia, a black female mayor in Atlanta, and all these places, and they're going after black men. It's the year of the RICO. Black men who are millionaires, successful artists, own record companies, made millions of dollars selling records. They want to prosecute them and say that you are causing the violence when they actually know the truth, that there are no more gangs, that blacks are not creating the violence. This is what we say in the black manosphere all the time. This is what Kevin Samuels said. Over 50% of black men are not married, without kids, have great jobs, and the other 30% are married with kids and have jobs. We talk about 20%. So black men are not doing the crimes. Black men are not selling dope. But if you listen to these black mayors, black female mayors, black female district attorneys, they are saying that we have to get rid of all the black men. Now, if you take into account everything he said demographically, if the cartel has murdered heterosexual masculine black men, and then these black women are going to incarcerate the rest, and then in the next 10 years, in this decade, Alonzo, everything in the world changes. What happens to the American Negro male? China, he said China is going to be gone in 10 years. And Joe Rogan was like, oh, we're going to kill China. We're going to, he said, no, they're going to die. Joe Rogan was like, huh? Just like he asked him about the gangs. Joe Rogan was like, wait a minute. I haven't heard about this. It makes sense what you're saying. But since 2013, how long is that, Alonzo? Was that over 10 years?
Yes. That's a whole decade.
That's been 10 years. This woman gets reports from the DOD and the DOJ, right? As a mayor, Lori Lightfoot, the district attorney, they know this. Big Meech, I said this. Big Meech, You know we know this shit. Big Meat said it out his own mouth. The cartel wanted my distribution. That's why I'm in jail. If you watch BMF, if you watch fucking Snowfall, if you watch Freeway Ricky Ross, he
Bro, I
said,
sat down, me and my homie here in Connecticut was gonna start an MC called the Deadhead Boys. He was Hispanic, I was black. I am black. We met with a Hell's Angel, and we were about to get everything started. And you know what that Hell's Angel looked me in the face and said?
what'd he say?
Oh, we won't be doing this. Why? He said, we'll sell you some guns and some meth, but we will not be affiliated with the blacks.
Straight up.
Straight like that.
In your face.
And what was I going to do about it? Fuck them up and have the Hells Angels come kill my entire family?
I ain't mad at it. Why don't we do that? Same thing the Italians said with started the whole war. We ain't fucking with the blacks. Same thing the Italians. Blood, I be so frustrated about YouTube and the way black men treat each other on YouTube. And I've been saying this Young Thug and been in jail 7 months. I've been saying this the whole time. I said about this black woman. I said basically what she's doing is slavery, and it's not fair. So me and you, even though me and you have changed our lives, right? Me and you are responsible. We got corporate, we got money, we got wives. No one would know who we were, right? They would be scared to meet me and you in our 20s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gunna's not that. My cousins are Jehovah's Witness. Let me tell you a story. I love my cousins. I would go visit my uncle. They had a mother and a father, 5 kids. They couldn't watch rap. My mother smoked cocaine. I will leave the inner city and visit them in the suburbs. My little brother, my baby brother, who I would fight every day to make sure he didn't have to go through my life, got to stay with my uncle. I had to go back to the inner city with no lights, crack, drugs. When I got home, my best friend Kareem would be outside. In the suburbs, everything closed at 6. I would get home 10, 11 o'clock at night. My mama would let me go outside and play. We could go buy candy. Kareem was waiting for me. People always say this thing about person is a snitch and person is a punk. Alonzo, I wanted to stay with my uncle. I didn't want to go back. It was not fun. It was scary. It was dark. It was grown people. It was killing. It was murder. It was blood. And I had to harden my heart and harden myself to go back to that neighborhood. If I'm 18 and I'm in the suburbs hanging out with my Jehovah's Witness cousin, he want to hit the blunt, maybe get some pussy, and we get pulled over, and I don't take the beef of the gun and the dope, and I look at and I say he hit the weed, and then my cousin is forced to say the gun and the weed is not mine. He doesn't say it belongs to Perfect. He just says, can I go home? Yeah, you can go home. Was the gun yours? No. Was the weed yours? No. You can go home. Why is my cousin a snitch? Why is my cousin this is only happening to the American black male? Why? I'm the bitch, Alonzo. I'm the bitch. I'm the punk. I'm the hoe. I'm the coward. I'm supposed to hold my cousin who had a mother and a father who has going to have a future after this. Got a wife and kids and a whole life who still has it now. I'm supposed to hold him to the whole standard of that crack era that I lived in, the crack mama, the reason why I smoke weed, the reason why I got a gun. He's supposed to do the time with me or for me. Nah. And this black woman who held Sergio Kitchens, who already worked with the DA at 19, this black woman who held Gunna in prison until he cried and broke and made him tell on his best friend who made him a millionaire, she should be incarcerated. And black people should hold her accountable for what she did. And like I said earlier, if this was a white district attorney, if this was a white judge, if these were white police officers who lied about the warrant and got their legal information from Hertz, who lied about the warrant and went into his house illegally, he had 65 charges, it's down to 6. If these were white officers, BLM would be out in front protesting. because what they did, and then they call it a RICO after you lied to gather everything that made it a RICO. It's not a RICO anymore. If these 6 charges, the murder is gone, everything is gone. How are they moving forward with a RICO? And this is a black judge, black DA. This is Wakanda. That's been my issue. And now factor in the fact of the extinction and genocide of black heterosexual males, and they've known that they haven't caused any problem in Atlanta, Chicago, LA since 2013 because they've been wiped out. They effectively, when Big Meech was put in prison, that was basically the end of black crime in America. We don't talk about that. There's no black crime. It was 30 guys on the corner when I was out there. How many people was on the corner? In every city you could drive to your... Come on.
So many. Bro, here in New Haven, Connecticut, this is a small town of 131,000 population. When I was growing up, and when I was real little, and I was growing up in the Trey, bro, on KSI, Kensington Street, for those from New Haven who know KSI, right? What they call them now, the Trey Bloods. In that area, man, these cats, me and my mother had me at 17. Bro, we would come out of the taxi cab. It would be dudes waiting in front, lined up in front of the taxi. Kid, get your drugs, get your drugs. The only reason they didn't get their grasp on me, because they had love for my grandmother. And, oh, we got to respect Mrs. Hall. We ain't going to mess with none of the kids.
So imagine, so that's your environment. That's my environment. And if I know you had a cousin who didn't live in that environment, is it fair to hold your cousin to that?
No.
Okay.
And I wanted to get out of that.
We
wanted to get to the burbs.
That's why me and you here.
Yeah.
That's why me and you here.
Now, I'm going to give you the conflict, and I'm also going to play devil's advocate. You've heard of Hydra. You cut the head off, 2 more will grow back.
Right.
Now, what I've been talking about, and this is why I said it's ironic, because me and my young lady from California were talking about this, because her mother actually has a Facebook page about gangbanging, because she brings in a lot of people who are from Cali in the gangs. And just as a FYI, if y'all don't know, California's gang world is completely different from everything not in California, right? Like, you know, out east, we look at 6-point stars and 5 points. They don't run none of that in Cali. It's neighborhoods, right? But like, I got a cousin from Avalon, right? And so here's where these cartels knocked us out. And maybe they're looking to cut off the head and hoping that 2 will grow back in its place. The problem that we're seeing is this, and this is what me and my associate were talking about.
Go ahead and flow, bro. I got to get a lighter real quick. I'll be right back.
No doubt. We have been gangs for 60 years, right? 30 years when 92 happened and we had the Crips and Bloods truce. And at that point, we hadn't done anything to solidify ourselves. And what do I mean? There was no unity across the board, right? Prime example, when I was in Brooklyn, New York, and I went to the bodega to go get a sandwich made, and there was a Mexican guy making the sandwiches. He had the number 14 tatted on his head. Tatted on his hand. So I was like, oh, you're Nuestra Familia? First of all, he was like, how in the fuck do you know about NF14? And then he was like, oh, no, that's, I don't know. Right? And I was like, well, why else would you have a 14 tatted on your hand? Right? That means you NF14. That's the only reason a Mexican will have the number 14 tatted on his hand. Right? And you look at the cartels, right? So we look at Sinaloa cartel, or La M, which is the Mexican mafia, the Black Hand of Death. 18th Street, which is now affiliated with the Mexican mafia. Serranos, MS-13.
Did you hear what he said? He said they co-opted the Mexican gangs because there was no language barrier.
Mm-hmm.
They co-opted the Mexican gangs because there was no language barrier. The black gangs, they just murdered.
Mm-hmm.
They took the distribution.
And shot a lot of them.
Big Meech. Who else had distribution on the scale of Big Meech? That's the reason why there's a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
You have Rick Ross and you have Big Meats. No one else distributed it nationwide
Right.
or globally. You got to go. Even Blue Magic, he only sold dope locally in New York.
Harlem. Mhm.
Yes, he didn't even expand to the South, even though he had the country cousins.
He
Even
was
though he
only
had-
in Harlem. Heroin was a New York issue.
Right. Even though he had those whole country connections, he never expanded. It wasn't even in his mind. He made too much money. He didn't know what to do with the money that he was making.
Mhm.
So he never had the mind like Big Meech to expand. Big Meech, I would love to speak with him because I think financial advisors and you need to pick his brain, because I would be like, blood, what was the goal? Because no one before you had the mind state to 10x the way you did. Like, what we're going to do with the money, because you potentially were going to make so much money. So I know you had a plan, right?
Mhm.
He had a house with $300 million in it. That was just, he didn't know
The
what
only
lived.
other one who I can think who possibly thought on that scale was Larry Hoover. And he was locked away in 1973, 74, right? And the reason why was because he started angling us towards politics, right? So now what I'm ironically enough looking to do is to speak to, like you said, what the problem is most of the guys who are talking about, oh, I'm selling cocaine and busting guns are gonna.
Right. Right. That's a fact.
Right? That's why I hopped on, because you was like, these dudes ain't lit. My man got shot 5 times in front of his mother. Right? All I was doing, let me explain to you. I was in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. All I was doing was working at Wendy's and selling weed. And the weed that I was selling literally was just so I could sell enough weed so I could support my habit and smoke for free. Right? And the dudes in the neighborhood didn't like that. We got into our scuffle, whatever. Bang, bang. I'm still here. Right? But then even further, we got to like start educating ourselves. Yes, educating. Right?
Yes.
Like you were talking about, one of the issues is the shells, but another major issue is this, the fingerprint of the gun, because you know there's a groove inside of that barrel.
Which they couldn't get on Tory Lanez.
Right.
Which they
Oh,
funny, right? Funny, right?
Yeah.
Funny. All the things me and you know, anybody, my cousin, your cousin who've been to jail for shooting somebody, there's certain key things you need.
Yeah.
But you know what's funny about the Tory Lanez case that no one talked about, that I had to take a step back, which is more even to the point about these black women and the racism? Tory Lanez, just like, you know, Pac, people think Pac was charged with grape.
Mhm.
And Pac wasn't charged with grape. He wasn't, he was
Unwanted
convicted.
touching.
Come on, my brother, man. Come on, man. Unwanted touching of a female's buttocks.
Mm-hmm.
That was the charge and the conviction. Unwanted, you can't grab a butt in the club. If the girl don't, you can get in trouble for that. That's what Pac got in trouble for. But people still call him a rapist to this day.
Mm-hmm. Unwanted touching of the buttocks.
So, right. So Tory Lanez was not charged with shooting Meg Thee Stallion.
Mm.
Exactly. I didn't know that. Tory Lanez was charged with possession of a illegal firearm.
Okay.
They never proved that it was just his car. Same thing happened with Young Thug. They threw the gun out because they couldn't prove it. That's why Young Thug don't even have that charge. It was 4 people in the car. Those girls put the bags in the car, but the jury said, yeah, he was charged with a possession. He was charged with firing a gun recklessly.
Mm. And endangering the public.
Right. And one other endangerment charge, but none of the charges said that he pointed the gun at Meg, shot Meg, or did anything to Meg.
Mm.
They made it so frivolous that she knew she can get a conviction.
Wow. See, I didn't even know. I thought they charged him with the actual shooting, but it was just discharging the gun.
Hey, baby, I'm live right now. That's
That's
all good.
amazing.
I just wanted to call you and tell you I love you. All right, call you back. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that.
Love.
For sure, right? She having her father passed away last year, so it's her father's birthday today, and you know my mama passed away last year, so
My condolences to both.
yeah, man, thank you, man. So I got to tap in with her, make sure she's doing okay. It's not easy losing a parent, man.
Mm.
Yeah, it's tough.
But so what I think has to happen, right? Because unfortunately, you know, I'm a huge male accountability person, right?
Right.
And at the end of the day, even when you look at things like these charges, right? Our women get put in these positions, and you look at the trumped up charges that they throw on us. But then also what has to happen is that 51% that Kevin Samuels was talking about, that other 30% that we're talking about, we have to start saying, yo, Gunna, right? We can't let this stuff be our image, because what happens is this: the world is still small. There, right? Just numbers, right? Because we always talk about like black people being on public assistance.
Look, let me interrupt you because I had this talk with my wife the other day. I think yesterday or the day before. This would inspired these two podcasts I did. I did a podcast yesterday about lust, external and internal customers. And how many people know about that? Like me and you, key players, decision makers coming into a room, boardroom, and coming out with having leverage and coming out with the objectives that you and your partners wanted to going into that meeting by understanding the decision maker and the key player, internal and external customer.
Mm-hmm.
I was frustrated because I have this knowledge, and I was listening to somebody because I'll be doing my research on finances, and he talked about power, right? And I got upset. Just like you talked about other cartels, banking cartels. So he talked about power and what's the key to power. Like I talked about perfection. I was named perfect. I did research on perfection. The key to perfection is repetition. Mm-hmm. He said the key to power is cooperation, collaborative cooperation. Powernomics. Powernomics is math. Nomics. It's in the name. Powernomics. That's math. Mm-hmm. It's addition. Collaborative workspaces. That's what the future is about. Collaborative cooperation. And I stopped everything we were doing in the house, and I just talked to I do this all the time to get it off my chest, because sometimes I can't go to the podcast. And so I just be giving her knowledge. And I said, babe, it's not. I'm frustrated because we don't have the mechanisms to accomplish it. The American Negro, by definition, is devoid of the ability to cooperate and collaborate, which is why we're powerless. And it hurts to hear men say this, which is true, but we don't have those mechanisms. And we don't even understand the keys to power. That we need to be collaborative. Me and you been having the same talk since we met. This goes back to finances. It goes back to science and invention, the Black Brain Trust. If you have a good idea, what do? We keep it to ourselves. We don't collaborate. We don't cooperate to make the idea better. Mm-hmm. Financially, we keep all our money. We don't collaborate. We don't cooperate. We don't pool our money. That's the only way to have influence and power. Asian money. You don't just say, Mr. Lee has money. Asians have money because we associate Asians with money. It gives them power and influence. They got a fucking bill passed in months. Congress got 15 votes on Kevin. 15 votes on the Speaker of the House. The Asians got a crime bill through in 5 seconds. We know the government don't work, but the Asians got a crime bill through in 5 seconds. How is that possible?
Hispanic Prosperity Initiative happened.
5 seconds.
They told Trump, we'll consider voting for you, but you must sign this bill first. And then they didn't vote for it.
Collaborative cooperation. Power. That's power. And because he believed that they would all do that. Mm-hmm. If a black man comes to the White House and say, he don't believe that y'all gonna cooperate and collaborate and pull that off. I like to see it, Negro. And if you do it 3 times, we might change the way we move. But I got to see you actually do that. Let me see you move. Because they made a video that said, get your booty to the pole.
No voting, no bucking.
That's what they think about our ability to collaborate and cooperate. They split us up, bro. They just split us up with the most infantile shit. So when you were talking about that, it just made me think about the talk I had with my wife. And this was a financial guy I was listening to, and it frustrated me. And I'm like, unless we can learn the keys to power, and we don't do it in this YouTube space, which is why Just Pearly thinks the white bitch is where she is.
The Lily linebacker.
We don't collaborate. We don't cooperate.
You're right. So, but peep this, is also, like you said, in the math. So 42 million Americans identify as Black. Do you know how many Americans whom identify as white are on public assistance?
No, how many?
42 million. So 100%
of our population,
which is 20% of white American population, is on public assistance.
And they can afford it. They don't have a problem with it. But they have a problem with the small percentage of us. So what percentage of us is on public assistance? Maybe 20%, right?
If that.
And they complain about that, but they have no qualms with those 42 million.
Brett Favre stole $4 million from Alabama.
I did that story first.
I remember. I was watching.
Brett
I don't catch you all the time, but when I catch you, I definitely tune in.
No. And he didn't get in trouble. Because he technically, just like in California, or if you in New York, in San Francisco, you can make $114,000 and qualify for welfare and food stamps because the cost of living. It's a guy on YouTube, how much you pay for your apartment in New York. Well, what goes along with that is if you're making under $100,000, I don't know the welfare structure in New York, but I got to assume it's the same because welfare is based on income.
They actually do it a little different in New York, but it's similar. You can definitely make $100,000 and be on public assistance in New York.
Okay, that's San Francisco.
There was a woman who was the aide to the mayor. Her house caught fire. She was obviously displaced from her home. She then, with her $100,000 income, was given a housing voucher so that she could get her housing and paid for by the state, basically, so she can rent an apartment. And the ill part about housing vouchers in New York, you see, most of the country is just Section 8. There might be a different name program here or there, but for the most part, it's Section 8. New York has these things called FETs, city FETs, and a few others. So you can actually work a job and the state will still pay 100% or up to 100% of your rent. Usually they'll max out at 70%. So you'll have to pay the other 30%.
Sound like Section 8. My baby mama in San Francisco got that right now. You can't afford it. All the Black women that are single mothers and saying she could work for the UC. She make damn near $80,000, $90,000 a year, but she still can't afford to live in San Francisco. I said, move to where I live and I could get closer, more time with my children. Nope, she want to live in San Francisco. And so she qualifies for Section 8 and food stamps. And she has a job making more money than 90% of the Black men in the country. This is the reality, bro. This thing, another thing he talked about, so he talked about the cartels. This is, so 42 million Black people, right? And we know it's more Black women than Black men. What in the next 10 years, brother, do you think the American Black male, the Negro male, are we on a path to extinction like the Chinese and the Russian?
Yes. Flat out. And it is not even going to take me long to answer that. Multitude of reasons. So I look at like my nephews. They're not even interested in Black women, which, you know, we look at the whole lineage thing. I personally, you know, I understand the lineage following the father, so-called, but then I look at our founding fathers and the reason for the one-drop rule. And those founding fathers, if the lineage was to follow the father, then a lot of dudes should actually be considered white or mulatto, but white, as you are automatically considered Black, no matter what you're mixed with.
If your mama's Black.
Yeah, you got one drop of Black, you Black. What that goes to show you is that our genes are dominant. But like you said, it takes that cooperation, right? So we're collabing and cooperating. There's a couple of brothers in this space who I got to give kudos to. One is you. You mention me often without me having to be there. And it's never negative, right? Sheed We Here mentions me often without me having to be there. Never negative. Rael mentions me often. Never
Salute,
negative.
salute to
Without me
Ryan.
having to be there, right? We talk about things like the Black Brain Trust, right? Behind the scenes, me and Complex, bro. We need this collaboration to even further ourselves. So I'm gonna just tell you, he has a micro mobility. You're in California. You heard of Line?
Yeah, he told me about. He talks about it a lot. He's
Okay.
going to be in California soon.
He came to me. We were looking because we have to get these micro mobility companies insured. So through collaborative effort, he was like, I keep hearing this dude Alonzo is the insurance guy in these YouTube spaces. Called me up. Yo, help me out with this. Bro, we went to the actual company that insures Line. And it's on their website, Allianz, which is a German company. I called them with him on the phone. They said to me, Mr. Hall, have you personally made $1 million off of selling insurance this year? Not $1 million to the company, $1 million in commissions for yourself.
You told me about this before. You talked about this before.
They said, I said, no. They said, did you at least make $500,000?
You've talked about this before.
I said, no. They said, oh, nah, that wasn't us. We can't talk to you. See you later. That's why Rael goes so hard, because he's like, yo, y'all brothers. Yes, we want this brother to get rich, but he is looking out for us. So, yes, we want him to make $1 million. Cool. But I don't care about his $1 million. I care about my $1 million. And in order for me to get to $1 million, I need Zoe to get to $1 million so he can kick that door open.
Ooh, the domino effect, baby.
Right? Because when I get to $1 million,
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? You got to get $1 million so I could get $1 million. Then he could get $1 million. What's wrong with that?
Nothing.
It sounds like some people who wear small hats on their head. You know, I was working in my job, $100,000 job. I remember when the black lady called me and offered the job, I cried, bro. I came in at 52, and I worked for like 10, 15 years. I didn't know I made it to that level till they offered me the job. I came from the hood like you. I made money, but a person giving me that job. And I was working, nobody black, some guy from Yemen. And he was explaining to me, I explained this to you before. And I said, that's a nice camera. He liked my Mercedes. I was like, man, that's a nice camera. He said, yeah. I bought it cash. I had to save up. I said, you bought it cash? I said, I bought my car cash too. He said, I'm not allowed to take an interest loan. I can't owe interest. It gets my religion. So when we would go out, he didn't go out. I'm saving all of my money to buy my house cash. What? Yeah, I can't get a home loan. What? So everyone you meet like me, Dennis, they bought their house cash. What? They bought their car cash. It's against our religion to take, like those people with the small hat, they know how to play with those people. They know what those people are going to do. So they don't take out loans with those people because that makes you a slave to those people. So it's against their religion because of their history with those people to never go into debt. If I go to my mosque and they give me the money, I pay them back, but without interest.
Without interest. It's called a halal loan. I actually I've done real estate in New York, and I've done business with it's funny. You would think that the people who wear small hats don't particularly like us. And for a majority, that's true. But when you're a brother such as ourselves who are able to maneuver, oh, they take a liking to you because they understand, oh, We got to get him in. So one guy was Israeli, and he says nothing's worse than an Israeli broker. You should hear how they and he was a broker, right? And he says, yeah, the worst people on earth are Israeli brokers. And I was like, wait, aren't you an Israeli broker? He said, yes. Worst people on earth are Israeli brokers. But he also gave me some tricks of the trade. I also was able to learn how people with the small hats get married.
Mm.
And they get married through a prenuptial agreement. Now, not the one that we're used to here in the States through the courts, but they get married through a prenuptial agreement. One thing that's major is by the age of 26, if you're not married as a man, they start to push you out of the community. You start to get written out of the money.
The collaborative cooperation.
Yeah.
It's about family. Ooh.
I'll tell you why. Now,
it's always back to the power. Collaborative, because power is family. And you know what else he said? If the key to my question about extinction, he talked about it. He said, in 25 years, I'm gonna be gone. All these people gonna be gone. He said, our kids, right? If they figure out family, then they'll be okay. If they don't figure out family, then 50, 60 years, America will be like China. No one will have to like bomb us or anything. Okay, me and your generation is smaller than the generation before us. Our grandparents lived on the farm. They had 14 kids. My grandma had 14 brothers and sisters. My dad had 13, 14 brothers and sisters. Not us. The biggest was 5. Now, he said with industrialization, what's true about kids in New York? They're loud. They're expensive. So we have less kids. If you live in New York in an apartment, you can't have 5 kids. So you have less kids. So me and you are part of a smaller generation. Our kids, the millennials and the Xers, grew up with an iPad in their hand. They're less socially interactive. They don't go, how many phone numbers did you get today? They grew up with an iPad. They don't go get a phone number. They don't grab buttocks. Everything is on, so they will have even less kids. He said that Italy and China have been dealing with this for 70 years. Our population will get smaller and smaller. The older people will get larger and larger, and America will die out like China if we don't figure out family. Collaborative.
You heard of the second 5-year plan?
Oh, no. Talk.
China, 1940-ish. The ruler came with what was initially the 75-year plan.
We talked about this. I showed visuals. Go ahead.
And now it's called the second 5-year plan. But he basically had a 75-year economic plan for China. Now, unfortunately, they were going through too much communism, et cetera, so they didn't flourish. But now China is flourishing. And if you'll notice here, if you look at statistics, the number one group in America financially is Asian. Now, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, it's likely Chinese, right? But they separate in their own subgroups. If you go to Japan, Japanese do not like Chinese and Koreans in their country, right? And so that 75-year plan has to happen. So while you're having this conversation, it needs to be brothers who need to be like, yo, we need to collab with Perfect and talk to him about a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, right?
This passport bros thing, like God move in mysterious ways, it can't just be an isolated thing. We got to recognize that we must procreate or be extinct, and we're not able to do that here with these individuals here because of the mental health crisis created by the repercussions of our oppression. I don't believe in slavery. We definitely went through an oppression. I believe we were indigenous to this land, and there was a war. We suffered, we lost, and then the casualties, and this is the result of that war. us being captives on our own land, right? So we never got mental health after that. And why would our invaders give us the mental wherewithal to fix ourselves, right? But the men have gone through so much trials that just like in the maze, we've reached this level. The women have not. So we don't have the ability to procreate and save ourselves here. That's not a personal dig towards the Black women here who do deserve help, right? And need to be fixed from their mental oppression, from our loss and captivity, right? But they have made a choice. What's happening now is we are I was talking to my wife about Hitler, right? And about Roger says niggas don't know how to break up. And you know what I extrapolated from that? I expounded on that to say to my wife, I said, we don't know how to surrender.
Well, yeah, we never gonna give up.
Hitler, think about tacticians in the war and playing chess. And I remember being in court with my wife, and my wife was telling me, no, daddy, you got a plea. You could fight another day. And I reminded her of that. And I said, I did not want to surrender. If you weren't there with me in court, I probably would have went to trial and be in jail. But you helped me surrender. And I actually came out on top of the DA. She didn't want to give me that deal. Because I surrendered, I was able to get concessions. Because you told me to. And that's what Hitler did. That's what the Republican Party held out. They surrendered at the end. Kevin is still the Speaker of the House. But they knew how to lose. They knew how to lose. Hitler knew when I lose, I surrender. We think Operation Paperclip, that was part of the surrender. Him going to Argentina, you get in Einstein, you get in the rockets, you get into NASA, you get in you get in the CIA, you get in our espionage, you get in our disguise, everything. I surrender, you win. America wins. Hitler lost. I'm going to kill myself in my room, y'all. And then we gonna go through these operations, right? You get everything, America. Why did America get everything? It was a surrender. Black men in this war we're having, the battle of the sexes, we lost. We're gonna lose, right? Numbers, for so many reasons, right? For so many reasons. Numbers, educations, demographics, so many but if we take the Hitler approach, if we know how to lose, if we take a chess approach to surrender, and we negotiate our surrender. Okay, Black women, what y'all want? Y'all want how much money y'all want? What y'all want? Y'all want us to fuck y'all on the weekend? Y'all want how? Make us, but we want this. From now on, when we do this and we travel and we make this, you don't say anything. You don't have to support it, but this is part of it. And you give us this, you give us this, you give us. We need to negotiate a surrender. We need to know how to lose, not just know how to break up, because when you break up, that's a loss. The relationship is over. See, we don't know how to lose. That's my girl. I want to fight over my girl. No, you lost. She's gone. And if you would have recognized it earlier, you may have come out on top for the next thing. She gone. But she don't know I know she gone, and I already lost. So I'm going to start, what women do, I'm going to start building for the next thing. I'm not going to be emotionally attached anymore. And when she say gone, I'm going to be ready to go. And next time she see me, I'm going to be brand new because I already knew I lost. I negotiated a surrender without her even knowing.
To that, I don't know if you've seen my recent videos where the intro, where I've got a gentleman, he was on a panel. He was on a panel with Ramil. Where he's like, Alonzo, the all-star advisor, $500,000 in the bank with him. That client is a passport bro. And he's already strategically surrendered. And I think that's what needs to happen, right? So that goes back to my second 5-year plan. Me and this gentleman created a 10-year plan for him. Now he's 42 at this point. He was 40 when we started, right? We've been now in our relationship for 2 years. I say that because we have a financial relationship. And his 10-year plan is to move overseas and purchase property. I just released a video called How to Passport Bro Like a Grown Person, because it's an article that I'm reading, because it explains exactly like you said, the small hats purchase their properties in cash, and overseas, there's no mortgage. You have to buy your property in cash, or you can secure a loan here in America and go purchase a property, but America's really not doing international loans anymore, right? So we came up with a 10-year plan for him, and what brothers need to do, especially passport bros, if we're going to actually surrender, is start setting ourselves up for that 10 years. We got to start looking at decades, not days. And this is why a lot of that defeat happens. You see, 10 years ago, when the cartels were killing us up, they were looking at 10 years ahead.
Right.
In fact, they were looking at 20 years ahead. The Zetas, right? Which is dudes don't know about the Zetas, yeah. Right? I'm not talking about the girls talking about ski wee. No. This is,
and they're dangerous.
Paramilitary group.
And they don't. And what he said about the Zetas is, they want power. They use drugs as a side hustle to gain power, which is different than the Pablo Escobar cartels. They wanted money. Mm-hmm. They want power. So, and they are the ones who have taken over America. Mm. So this is not no joke. This is not no joke. We are dealing with some. So outside of the issue with black women and black love, we may have to deal with a paramilitary. Or shit, that ain't even fair, bro. We've already lost that war. According to since 2013, there are no more gangs. Since 2013, he said this happened under Obama. They murdered all the black gangs.
And then took a sip of water.
And we are on YouTube negotiating as black men about YSL being a RICO gang, as black YouTubers saying he need to go to jail. He need to go to jail. And there are no black gangs. There's not one RICO case pending for any of the cartels. And currently, right now, there are 1,500 illegal grows in Southern California with this Jalisco cartel. Each of them is worth $1 million a piece. That's $1 billion trillion right there. And there's not one not one FBI, not one district attorney in this whole country, not one state, Lori Lightfoot, Chicago, not one investigation. No one can see why I'm passionate about this Young Thug case. There's not one investigation into the cartel. He said the cartel is laundering money in Colorado through the marijuana dispensaries. They took over Big Meech's distribution in Atlanta, but there's not one. But every black content creator is talking about RICO season. They're pushing it like it's a Bitcoin because they want everybody to get on board with RICO season and snitch season because they're getting so many clicks and views, and YouTube is giving them pennies pushing RICO season. And the black women want to get promoted, and so they're selling the few heterosexual black men left with any influence and money down the river based on old racist tropes.
Can I cut in?
Yeah, please.
Because something that you said just clicked with me. So unfortunately, there has been a separation vastly between black men and women. And now I just realized something, because you said the effective surrender. And now we see why the black women are selling the black men up the river. See, they're in it for their own survival. Self-preservation is key, number one in life.
Yes, yes.
And now they've done this. 2013, most of these brothers, they are unable to protect us. They don't even know that they're unable to protect themselves because they've lost since 2013.
Talk about it.
You know what? Let's just get rid of the rest of them. I'm going to try and get me a white man or a Rico Suave or an Indian or something and try to survive, because unfortunately, even though I'm still the least desired amongst them, they might, since they fetishize us, they might want to sit down with one of me and procreate and give me something.
So are you saying, I just had an epiphany? Man, we do this a lot, man. God is good, man.
So I surrender. I'm Lori Lightfoot. I surrender. Let's get rid of all the brothers. They gonna die out anyway. You just said it. We already lost.
it.
We might face this paramilitary group. We cannot face a paramilitary group. Most of us don't even know how to disassemble a handgun, let alone a military gun, an assault rifle, right? Like I just talked about the barrel when you talked about with
Wait, stop. Wait. My wife, I'm gonna call her. You know what you just made me realize? What I just put together. Me and her have said a lot of times about a lot of these, and you know, because you got shot. I asked her, and she laughed, right? Because she was in the gang, and she know guys don't know how to use a gun because her father taught her how to use a gun, right? I said to her, like, who's doing these shootings? Do you know how many cheddar bobs? It's all cheddar bobs. It's very rare that there's a ghost. I bet dollars to donuts, none of you niggas know a ghost, but I know every one of you niggas know a cheddar bob.
Bro,
everybody knows a cheddar bob. Who is doing these shootings? I don't know nobody I grew up with. I don't know no enemy that does what Tommy and Ghost did on TV. Nobody knows how to do CIA style hunting, killing, and get away with it cleanly. The way Nipsey Hussle was shot, the way Mo 3 was shot, the way all of these rappers have been killed, a lot of these prominent gangsters in your hood, he just said they were all murdered by 2013. So who has the proficiency?
It ain't us, apparently.
They're saying it's Young Thug. They're saying it's us. They're saying we're doing the killing. I just was asking my wife, and you know from your history, who doing the shooting, Lonzo? Because these ain't niggas.
You know what's funny?
What? Look, wait. One more thing before you go. YFN did a drive-by. The guy Young Thug was beefing with.
Yeah.
The guy he was beefing with. You know what happened? On they drive-by, because this is what really happens with Cheddar Bob motherfuckers in the hood. He got $1 million. He do a drive-by in the Maybach. That's number one. That's number one. That's number one. A $300,000 Maybach. This is in the court docket. The nigga he with gets shot during the drive-by. Guess what he do? He kicked the nigga out the car. It was his cousin. He died on the street. That's why the nigga in jail right now. The only evidence to the whole thing was the fact that his cousin died on the street and he kicked them out the motherfucking $300,000 Maybach. So that's just context for people listening on the replay when I say who is doing, because that's how black dudes do shootings. That's what happened. I know a lot of stories.
Even
like
if we walk up.
Huh?
I said, even when we do a walk up.
That's what typically happens. It's some stupid ass shit. Some baby gets shot, some old lady gets shot, or some nigga gets shot and fall out the car and everybody go to jail. But the paramilitary style murders that's been happening to rappers, Young Dolph, that's not what happened. I'm gonna be quiet. Go ahead. You go ahead. I just want to give context, because some people gonna think that I'm just talking out my ass. I want to give context to how black men, how real shootings happen in the hood. Stupid shit.
When I got shot, so first of all, I was staring down the barrel of the 9. I looked my killer in his eyes.
He closed his eyes.
I don't even remember, to be honest. But there were 2 guys. Because if it was one dude, I would have swung from the shoulders. Because I used to carry anyway. So there was a second guy behind me. So it was 2 dudes, a 9mm and a 38. First bullet hit my shoulder. Bullet grazed my head. Bullet clipped my ear. Bullet in my back. Bullet grazed my elbow. There's 16 bullets in the 9mm if you don't have one cocked in the chamber already. There's at least 6 bullets in the 38 special. Both of these dudes let off their entire clips.
Over 20 shells.
I got hit 5 times. The only reason I know that is because after I got released from the hospital, after 14 hours, and I walked out under my own power, didn't use a wheelchair or nothing.
Point blank range. Just like Pac left the hospital by itself.
Yeah. You know, they wonder how I lived through 5 shots. Niggas is hard to kill on my block.
It's like Pac left the hospital. Come on, man.
Right?
This is what really, 2 guys, 2 guns, point blank range, over 20 shots and you hit 5 times. That's what the real That's the reality. If you grew up in the streets, the shit that y'all been seeing, that's not what happens in the street. I know y'all want to believe that Ghost and Tommy is real and that every black guy knows how to do murder and get away with it. I'm sorry, bro. Black men barely know how to use guns, and white guys know this. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't want to put black men down. I'm just being honest with you. This is just the reality, bro. There's very few gangbangers who have a gun, who shot a gun. Everybody in the Crips, it's so many numbers. Everyone doesn't have to have a gun. That's not even how the Crips work. Y'all just think everybody would go to jail. Why do you think everybody outside got a gun? No, everyone outside, that's where they got the term shooter from.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody doesn't fight. Everybody don't have to fight. We got somebody who know how to fight. We got a person who likes to do drive-bys, who likes to shoot. Some
The
people
chef.
don't like.
Not
Right,
everybody can cook up.
right. But y'all think it's a cartoon. It's not a cartoon. So in the hood, it's not a requirement that every black man knows how to use a gun, operate a gun, and kill someone.
It should
It's
be.
not. It's right. But you think in this gang environment that it's not, bro. And that's not
Bro,
how.
how many dudes do you know? And you about to go on a rant, so I'm gonna let you get this rant when I say this. And take a puff for me. I ain't got no bud right now.
For sure.
How many dudes you heard talk about? Oh, that hammer dirty, right? But they didn't know that it was literally dirty. See, there's a reason why the Kalashnikov is a favorite gun in a lot of places. It's not accurate at all and doesn't have great distance. It has awesome stopping power. It'll go through cinder blocks. But the reason that the Kalashnikov is such a coveted weapon is because in places like the desert and everything, you can literally get that gun dirty. You can have the sand in that gun and it will still operate.
Right.
If you get a handgun and it's dirty, meaning that there's gunk and shavings from when you fire that gun in it, that's really what a dirty gun is. It's not a gun with a body on it, which is what we call dirty guns in the hood. Oh, that gun dirty, son. Why? Oh, because I shot at somebody with it. You don't even know if you actually hit somebody with it. Let's be honest, right? Point blank range, 20 shots. I only got hit 5 times. So obviously,
can't make it up. You can't make
I'm
that up.
NRA certified, bro. I know how to change the barrel of the gun, which is the fingerprint. So if you actually make that gun dirty by catching a body, you can literally change the fingerprint. And when they do the ballistics test, it will come up as a different gun.
Correct.
Right?
Ghost.
Right? But most of the time we running around with dirty guns, right? So not only is the gun used in a prior crime or prior criminal activity, but it's actually dirty. You haven't oiled it, right? You haven't cleaned the bullets, right? And then, like you said, where are we getting these shells? Right? Even with these kids in Chicago with these 30-round drums, well, back in the 1920s, because now it's the 2020s, history repeats itself 100 years later, Prohibition, they was running around with Tommy guns, which is a 45 caliber automatic weapon. I'd love to have a Tommy gun today, but right? Well, they got way worse stuff than Tommy guns, to be honest, but you can't get your hands on that stuff, to be honest. We can't get our hands on that stuff.
No. Zeta's got him.
I'm lucky if we got, the handgun. That's pretty much what's in the hood is a handgun, right? You might have somebody with the
Wait. Until 2013. Now that's another thing about this whole thing that bothers me. That was true, and I didn't know this until I saw this guy.
Yeah.
This is another thing that I asked my wife. She's 30 years old. Where are the guns coming from? I know they're not making enough money. Who is bringing it? It's not the Asians. Now we know what happened. The cartels came in. And these guys who are doing all the shooting in Chicago and everything, they work for the cartel. And you know who else? And no else I got this from to support this? Little Dirk. He told. but no one really listens anymore. No one is paying attention. Little Dirk been asking for help, and he told the cartel run Chicago. Cartel is giving us guns. When people would say I ran off on the plug, Little Dirk had a song say, I don't know how you gonna do that. Because anybody who do that in Chicago,
they whole family dead.
gone. That was 5-6 years ago. Little Dirk been dropping little gems about the fact, because a lot of people think that this is a black problem in Chicago.
You know, there's a lot of Mexicans who are darker than you and I.
I've been there. I'm from San Francisco. And they will not
go right down to TJ.
And they will not associate with you. I've been in a holding tank with someone blacker than me. Panamanians are darker than me and you. What the fuck you talking? Panamanians are darker than me and you. And they would not politic with me.
You're black.
And he didn't speak no English, and I never speak English, and purposely didn't learn English. Because he would enunciate things in a way, if you were truly Latino, you would know this motherfucker don't know no, and this motherfucker is not black. That's the way he spoke his language. He never wanted to learn English. You understand what I'm saying? Because it would change his vernacular, right? When he spoke, you know he's from Panamanian. There's no mistaking. He's not faking. Yeah, man. They co-opted the Latino gangs. He didn't say Mexican gangs. He said they co-opted the Latino gangs. That's everybody south of the border. That's everybody who's in America who speaks Spanish. And you want to get down with them.
That's even, Latin Kings, Maniac Latin Disciples, Spanish Cobras, right? Nietas. One that we had here was, I don't know if it traveled, well, I'm pretty sure it traveled outside of Connecticut, but it was humongous in Connecticut, was the Solids, who had a beef with the Latin Kings.
When the last time you heard about that? I grew up in California. The Mexicans used to have beef. I ain't heard about no Mexicans funking with Mexicans in a long time. Since 2013, this is over a decade that this change has occurred.
You know what's funny? When I spoke to that guy with NF-14 in Brooklyn, it was around that time.
Everything changed. These guys got the artillery, the guns, and then the drill music came. Now, if we look at everything, this has been a covert operation by the CIA, and someone in the government has been benefiting from the cocaine sales. Another thing said in the interview is he said to Joe Rogan is it would be so much better if we didn't love cocaine. Now, one thing that me and you know, and you shared and you educated me on the thing with the insurance. Now, I just told you about the banks in Colorado. What's true about both? That someone in America benefits from the sale of cocaine, and there being one organization to funnel the cocaine. It's not good when everybody has the opportunity to sell the cocaine. So for 10 years, they've been selling cocaine as usual, getting the money, and who in the government is benefiting from this? Someone is getting paid off. That's the way it go. Because we don't know. Even Joe Rogan was like, what you're saying sounds correct, but no one is talking about this. Alonzo, in the age of social media and people talking about everything, how come no one is talking about this? And it's been going on for 10 years. So who is benefiting from this new situation? Someone in the American government is profiting from these cartels taking over the drug business in America. That's one aspect.
I don't know if it's cocaine. It's probably pills now.
I said drug business.
Drug business.
And then the other aspect is the RICO season and all of the black men who are paying for it. For the past 10 years, you got brothers going to jail and brothers getting put under the jail, getting called gangbangers and all this different stuff. And the reality is the FBI and the CIA and the DOJ knew this whole time that the real problem of violence and gangs was the cartels, and that the black gangs have been eradicated, and black men are potentially on the outlook of being extinct because of what's happening with the cartel and Mexican invasion. And it's not just on the level of like you were saying, it's not just that, but it's all the other factors created by racism that puts the black male in jeopardy. And that's the sinister part of this Young Thug Rico snitch campaign. That so many black people are celebrating, and so many people like academics are saying he deserves 20 years, and you can't rap about these things and making it funny and making it commentary what's happening and not talking about the prosecution style, the way they've broken the law and the way they've lied to acquire this Rico charge. And now they're going forward, which should be an embarrassment, with 6 out of 65 charges. Remember how you just talked about the numbers of 20 bullets and 6 out of 65 charges. That's all they have. The
So they
murderer,
cut it down to 10%.
correct. And how is it still a Rico?
It's not.
There's
Unless
no
what they're
murder.
doing. So with Rico, one of the things that they do is they catch you with legitimate things. So my wife works for a certain 3-letter government agency,
Uh-huh.
and they deal with folks' money. And
You don't
she
wanna own
had,
it.
in her early part of the career, you've heard of the Genoveses?
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to say this.
Be careful.
So a person who worked with her had to deal with someone who was a Genovese.
Mm.
And they were like,
East Coast is
sir,
a trip. Boy. The East Coast
you
is
have,
good. It's not TV for y'all.
you
This
have,
shit is TV for us, man.
you
We don't know nobody like that in California, man. We don't got nobody like that, man.
ain't got no Genoveses out there?
And that's just one family, right? Y'all,
That's just one family.
it's a way of life for y'all, right?
Yeah.
We don't know that shit, man.
Yo, listen, that was a nice audit. I'm going to just say like that. Because this person was like, oh, yeah, no, I get my hands really dirty. I do construction. Sir, you're in a 3-piece custom Armani suit. You're out of a Maybach, and your hands are perfectly manicured. What construction are you doing?
Right.
I put people in cement shoes. No.
right. I paint houses, shit.
Right? But so what they catch, here's how they catch us on Rico. Tax evasion.
Mm.
Because tax evasion can still be put with nothing else. You can still, if you're on tax evasion, be wrapped up in Rico.
But that's a real Rico. This is a conspiracy
So
charge.
they just doing this state Rico? They ain't doing federal?
This ain't feds, man. The feds wouldn't do nothing this sloppy, being embarrassed.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's why they got a 98% conviction rate.
Imagine the feds overcharging. That's what this is. You overcharge by that much, that would hurt you in the trial. You overcharge by 100%.
Yeah.
You overcharge by 100%. You only going forward with 10% of the charges. The feds would never. That would be an embarrassment to whoever who put together this indictment. You would probably lose your job.
Wow. Okay. See, I thought it was federal. I didn't know. As soon as I hear Rico, I think Fed.
Nah, it's state.
Okay.
A lot of
Oh.
people.
Oh yeah.
State.
So technically you could catch them on state tax evasion, but the state ain't gonna do that because there's not
Nah.
enough money for the state. Fed, they want every penny.
So think about this. I'm about to get out of here. We've been having.
Yeah, I was about to say I gotta hop on the phone call.
Oh man, thank you for joining, man. One thing I'll ask you before you bounce is, because you in the money.
Mhm.
All of these guys,
I'm
about
listening,
10
I'm just
guys.
responding to this text.
That's all good. 10 guys have been given a plea deal where they got 7 months time served and 15 years probation. Another thing I said to my wife that made her eyes bulge and mouth drop is she said, I said to her, how much is that gonna cost? Who's gonna pay for that? The city of Atlanta, when it got cold, they were without water in the low income areas for over a week. And the water guy said he don't know when the water gonna come back on because the distribution plant, the treatment plants have been screwed up since COVID. most major American cities are broke. How can they afford to have double-digit black men on probation for 15 years? It's extremely expensive.
Mhm.
Is it worth it to the city? This RICO to put on this RICO case, that's a national global case now, is expensive. She charged 30 men. At the end of one of the things that was assessed at the end of OJ and at the end of Rodney King was how much the trial cost
Mhm.
and how much it generated through the media. How much is this going to cost Atlanta, not just in the short term, but in the long term? How much did it cost her to put this RICO thing on, charge these 30 men, and then I don't think the city of Atlanta understood that she would be putting them on the backs of the Atlanta for 15 years. That's probation officers, that's supervision. That's a lot of money and resources from the city for these men who were not supposedly these criminals in the first damn place. How expensive you think this is?
It's in the billions. I can tell you that. But as expensive as it is going to be 10 times as lucrative because slavery.
Right.
And what is the number one export of the prison industrial complex? Labor. So now you've got the economy that's guaranteed for the next 15 years because somebody's got to supervise and this, that, and the third, right?
Jobs, a lot of jobs, a lot of infrastructure to support this.
And now these brothers are going to be farming tilapia because they do tilapia farms in prison, right? That they don't do tilapia. There's like no regular tilapia farm. They farm tilapias in prison. So that fish that goes that everybody's eating, tilapia, I'm eating healthy. Tilapia is made from prison, and what they do is the vats where all the shit comes out from the prison, because tilapia is a bottom feeder. So they just create a big ass vat and have the fish swim in the shit, and they have the black men go and work for pretty much 10 cents a year.
Aquaponics.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. I'm gonna look that up.
But listen, I gotta make this phone call. I appreciate it. I'm gonna just sign off. Wipe ass, work in progress every day, and see success. And remember, when people challenge you, they don't challenge you to challenge you, but they challenge you to challenge you.
Yeah.
Challenge.
Salute. Salute. Alonzo Hall, Perfect Timing Podcast. Where we at? We had 2 hours and 22 minutes. I missed my baby lunchtime. She probably was watching a little bit while we was live. I love you, baby. Prayers for you. Sorry I didn't get to talk to you. That's why I answered the phone to make sure I got your call. And let you know I love you and I'm thinking of you. I'm gonna play the video in its entirety one more time before we get out of here. And then we're gonna sign off.
The air quotes good cartel, the one that saw drugs as a business, is being broken up. If you remember El Chapo,
that's the good cartel.
Yeah, remember El Chapo, Sinaloa cartel.
Yeah,
he thought of himself as a Korean conglomerate president. So it's like we smuggle drugs. That's our business. You don't mess with things that mess with the business. So you don't trip the old lady. You don't steal her purse. You don't shoot at the cops. These are people who live where we operate. We want them to be on our side. So maybe even throw a party every once in a while. You focus on the business. We got El Chapo. We removed him from circulation. The guy who died or got captured yesterday was his son, one of the Los Chapitos. And his cartel, as a result, is fracturing because his leadership's gone. The replacement cartel is Jalisco New Generation. They're led by a former Mexican military officer who thinks that rather than don't shit where you sleep so that the people on your side, whenever you move into a town, you shoot it up. You do kick over the old lady. You do take her purse. You make the people scared of you. That's the point of this. Drug running is a side gig. We are here to be powerful. And drug running is just one of the ways we make that happen. And he has taken the fight to every cartel and the Mexican government. And they're in the process of trying to break into the United States.
Break in what? Economically?
Yeah, El Chapo and the Sinaloa became the largest drug trafficking organization in America under the Obama administration. And one of the reasons our birth rate went down so far so fast is they basically either co-opted or killed American gangs. So they killed the people who were doing the killing. Not a lot of Americans got killed after that. All of the other cartels control the access points in the United States, but Jalisco New Generation now is challenging every single one of them, trying to break through. And if they do, and they bring their business acumen, if you will, north of the border, they're going to start killing white chicks named Sheila in Phoenix. And then we're going to have a very different conversation in this country about the drug war and about trade with Mexico.
So when you say that they've killed the gangs, like in what way? Because that is an interesting thing that you don't hear a lot about American gangs anymore.
Well, that's because they're not there to the same degree. So the Sinaloa, they co-opted the Hispanic gangs, especially the Mexican gangs, because there wasn't a language barrier there. And they really targeted and gutted a lot of the African-American gangs. They took over drug smuggling and distribution from them to deny them income, and then they just shot a lot of people.
And when did this take place?
That happened during the 2000s. It was pretty much completed by the time we got to 2013.
But we weren't really this narrative didn't really go around. This is not something that I've heard before.
Well, yeah, look at the murder.
It's making sense.
Yeah,
when you're
look at the violent crime rates in the United States. They've been trending down really significantly since about 2004. And the drop from 2004 to roughly 2014 was amazing. That's largely Sinaloa.
So they have silently sort of invaded and taken over the distribution and taken over the gang activities.
Right. And this is El Chapo's cartel that is now getting broken up. And as soon as you have more players, more violence is going to happen, especially against one another. And that's one of the reasons that the murder rate in Mexico has skyrocketed in the last 3 years.
That was the whole video in its entirety. There's more video from this guy. I want to show the one. We talked about some of the stuff that's going to happen in China. Let's see what other ones we're going to talk about. He had another one on the cartel, but I didn't world population shift. Y'all want to do that? Let's do the where do the world in Ukraine is leading. And then he had the war in Ukraine was inevitable. So we talked about the war in Ukraine being inevitable because Russia demographics. This is the last year that Russia would have enough people to fight a war. Would Russia use nukes? Let's go to the world population shift because we focused a lot today on that world population shift. So we're going to go to the world population shift. Because it's a demographics guy, and I think it helps ground the conversation today.
That
we are dealing with the end of the world that we know. Russia is more of a symptom of this than a cause. So to go back a little bit, in the world before World War II, if you had coal, oil, food, and iron ore, you could industrialize and try to make something of yourself. But if you failed to have one of those, you were probably a colony. At the end of the war, the Americans abolished the imperial system and patrolled the global oceans for everyone. And as a result, now you only needed one of those four, and you could trade for the others. And so for the first time in human history, we were all on the same path, from different starting points and going at different speeds, but we were all industrializing and we were all urbanizing. The problem, well, let's start with the opportunity. When you urbanize, you move from the farm and into town to take an industrial job. When you live on the farm, you have a lot of kids because they're free labor. You move into the city, you have a lot fewer kids because kids are no longer free. They're really expensive and noisy and annoying and dirty pieces of furniture. And you have fewer of them. And so your population starts to shift. It used to be that you have loads of children, a few young adults, fewer retirees. It's kind of a pyramid. But as you urbanize, your pyramid opens up into a column because you have fewer kids, but everyone's living longer. And as long as your population is a column, economic growth is spectacular because you don't have to spend a lot of money on your kids. You're not old enough that you have a lot of retirees, but you got a lot of people in their 20s and 30s to build things and buy things, and then a lot of people in their 40s and 50s to do the investing. And the rich world was a population column from 1945 to 1992. And with the end of the Cold War, the developing world became a column in 1992 until now. The problem is that this is all temporary because birth rate keeps dropping, people keep living older, and your column eventually inverts into an open pyramid, upside down. And now you no longer have children. You no longer have a replacement generation at all. And there aren't enough people in their 20s and 30s to buy everything. And there aren't enough people in their 40s and 50s to pay for the retirees. So this decade was always going to be the decade that most of the advanced world moves into mass retirement and the economic model collapses. And next decade was always going to be the decade that happened to the developing world. And we find out recently that the Chinese have jumped the ship, and this is their last decade too. So all of the globalized connections and consumptions that create the world we know, we are at the end of it. And we have to go back to a world where trade is more focused on the countries that have a better demographic and security infrastructure because the Americans are no longer patrolling the global oceans anymore. So we're losing the security ramifications of an open system. At the same time, we're losing the demographic capacity to support it in the first place. And that's all going down right now.
Is that deep or what? Is that deep or what? China jumped the ship. China is going through that right now. America is no longer patrolling the seas. Y'all remember Pirates of the Caribbean? The pirates was not white. I love Jack Sparrow, but the pirates was never white. Christopher Columbus wasn't white. Imagine a world without Americas or NATO's, and anybody could just, in the maritime law, you hear a lot about the Moors, and people talk about maritime law. It's important because of what he's talking about how the globe is going to collapse. This is why maritime law is so important, because you have to be able to trade. You have to be able to navigate the waterways. And there has to be some type of law because people would pirate ships and take women and take booty. That's what the pirates would do. Aye, nice Vash matey, I come for your booty. I'm a pirate. Aye, ho, ho, ho. Yeah, that's what pirates would do. So they had to establish law on the seas, because without that, you wouldn't have a China, because China needs trade in order to exist, because you cannot grow food there. He said China jumped ship, and you don't have America protecting the waterways so that they can trade enough to get the food that they need. He said that's happening this decade. When I first started my podcast, I talked a lot about the browning of America, because Trump was president, and I was talking about why Trump was doing what he was doing in the browning of America in about 2040 and 2053, about how they were talking about blacks will be broke by this certain time and that America would be a majority minority country. Biden came out and said this country will be a minority white country by 2040. And you guys will have to learn to work with the Mexicans. Now think about everything we talked about today with the cartels. Y'all remember that? Some people are like politically savvy like myself. Y'all remember the speech where Biden said, by 2040, America will be a minority white country. And you guys are going to need to learn how to work with the Mexicans. I said to you, if you think that they're going to wait until 2040 or 2030 to start this negotiation and working with the Mexicans, you sadly mistaken, because that's not how it works. They're not going to wait till December 2029 to start negotiating with the cartels and the Mexicans and the power structures in South America about what the next phase is for America. They're already having these talks now. I bring this up because what we're doing to ourselves. I'm with Alonzo. I know Alonzo knows me from being on certain panels. I am not opposed to marriage. I am not opposed to black women. I love black women, and I am currently married. I believe marriage is a key to wealth. I would always say that on the panel that I would be on. Hot Sauce was here. I used to be on the Rogers panel, Roger Report. And I've landed on the Rogers panel because he was one of the few people in the space who was talking logically about marriage and the benefits of marriage and truly wanting to be married and have the life that his father had and provide the life for his children that his father provided for him. And understanding that powernomics and that what 19 Keys said about wealth, not being rich, but there is no wealth without family. And the key to our solving these problems, and not just for blacks, but America, period, in this next decade, is family. Family, family, family. Because we have to be able to teach this people who's going to be running the world in the next 25 years the importance and the necessity of family for civilization. And they must learn a lesson from China. They must learn a lesson from Italy about why family is important. But right now we're dealing with a society that's over rampant with this ideology that's anti-family and anti-father. It's like we're doing it to ourselves, and we're going to jump the ship like China, and we're going to put ourselves in a position to where we won't be able to come back. That's why I asked, are black men going extinct? How much damage has been done by the prison industrial complex, the war on drugs, and now the cartels, child support, joblessness. How many viable black men at the age of, he said it was inevitable. This is what the questions I'm asking as a black man. Some people might say, don't focus on black, right? It was inevitable that Russia would go to war in 2022 because this was the last year that they had enough 20-year-olds. That's what he said. How many 20-year-olds do we have that are heterosexual men? That had, like, this is what Kevin Samuels was trying. I shared this with somebody in the back chat. I said it was so sad when Kevin Samuels would have his man day because the man just was clueless. How many viable 20-year-olds do we have to go to war or to create a family for us to perpetuate forward as the American Negro? Anybody know? Anybody know? I don't know. I'm not a mathematician, man. I'm a investigative reporter. I think y'all need to start thinking about it, bro. It's a good podcast, man. I'm about to go make me something to eat, man. What else? It was some deep shit, man. I'm trying to share with y'all. Putin got cancer. What's another one? Okay, y'all want to watch another cartel one? We could do another cartel one with Russia use nukes. We did the Polish population shift. The war in Ukraine was inevitable. Where does the war in Ukraine lead? Okay, let's do the other cartel one.
The guy who got captured yesterday was his son, one of the air quotes good cartel, the one that saw drugs as a business, is being broken up. If you remember El Chapo,
That's the good cartel.
Yeah, remember El Chapo, Sinaloa cartel?
Yeah.
He thought of himself as a Korean conglomerate president. So it's like we smuggle drugs. That's our business. You don't mess with things that mess with the business. So you don't trip the old lady. You don't steal her purse. You don't shoot at the cops. These are people who live where we operate. We want them to be on our side. So maybe even throw a party every once in a while. You focus on the business. We got El Chapo. We removed him from circulation. The guy who died or got captured yesterday was his son, one of the Los Chapitos. And his cartel, as a result, is fracturing because his leadership's gone. The replacement cartel is Jalisco New Generation. They're led by a former Mexican military officer who thinks that rather than don't shit where you sleep so that the people on your side, whenever you move into a town, you shoot it up. You do kick over the old lady. You do take her purse. You make the people scared of you. That's the point of this. Drug running is a side gig. We are here to be powerful. And drug running is just one of the ways we make that happen. And he has taken the fight to every cartel and the Mexican government. And they're in the process of trying to break into the United States.
Break in what? Economically?
Yeah. El Chapo and the Sinaloa became the largest drug trafficking organization in America under the Obama administration. And one of the reasons our birth rate went down so far so fast is they basically either co-opted or killed American gangs. So they killed the people who were doing the killing. Not a lot of Americans got killed after that. All of the other cartels control the access points in the United States, but Jalisco New Generation now is challenging every single one of them, trying to break through. And if they do, and they bring their business acumen, if you will, north of the border, they're going to start killing white chicks named Sheila in Phoenix.
You know who Ed Calderon? Have you ever followed Ed Manifesto on
I have
Instagram?
not.
He used to work for the government in Mexico, and to fight off the cartels. And now he's made his way to America, and he just does a great job of highlighting all this stuff.
That was deep the way he put that, because Alonzo talked about the new paramilitary cartel, and basically, I wanted to play that one last time before we go into this next clip, because you have to understand what's taking place because a lot of people know about El Chapo. They don't know about this new paramilitary group that's being run by an ex-Mexican military officer who's taken over El Chapo. It's funny, Alonzo knew about this. Alonzo been doing his research. This new cartel that is not focused on, think about what I said about the demographics, because he's speaking in riddles. This new cartel is not focused on the money and like the girls and the cars and the flash. This new cartel is focused on power. How genius. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think he's correct. If you think about what he's saying about China and Russia and Mexico being in such a powerful position and America being in a strategic position to be good, what if Mexico was to take over America because America's love for cocaine? What if they say, like, look, we could do like Russia and treat America like the Ukraine? We've already taken over the majority of American cities. What if we just play the background and we have the power over America? Because America, like this guy is saying, is going to be here in 25 years. What if he's thinking about the cartel being here in 25 years? Mexican, not on some, we think it's not about, for what he's saying, it's not about the drugs anymore. It's about Mexicans being here in power in 25 years. It's about Mexicans being here in power in 25 years. And what's wrong with that if Americans love cocaine and it allows him a strategic geopolitical positioning? Think about in the end of the world scenario from the perspective of a Mexican. Oh, they mean gangs. Oh, they're cartel. No, I'm not a cartel. I'm not about drugs. I use drugs the same way Ronald Reagan used drugs in the Iran-Contra. I use drugs for that reason. I'm a leader. I'm a Mexican American. I want the best for Mexicans. Yeah, I use drugs to get money to feed my goals. Which, from what I can extrapolate from what this man is saying, is Mexicans in power 25 years from now. I'm bringing this up because I want you to say to yourself and be conflicted, what have we done? What are we doing to make sure that we have power or even are here in 25 years, black men? just to set up the next clip. That's that, and we're gonna get out of here.
Stuff. But one of the things he was showing is they were using 50 caliber rifles to try to shoot down planes yesterday.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
I have.
I mean, what the fuck is going on over there? I mean, it seems like we concentrate so much on these conflicts that are happening all around the world, and there's a massive one happening in a place where we could walk to.
It's the disintegration of the Sinaloa cartel. So back in 2019, the Los Chapitos, I can't remember his name. I keep want to say Octavian. That's not it because that's a girl's name. Anyway, it begins with an O. He was captured in 2019, and they weren't able to get him out of town fast enough. So all of his homies basically got together with assault weapons and descended upon the police units that did it, and they were forced to let the guy go.
Yeah, I remember that.
This time, they were able to get him to the airport fast enough, and he's already in Mexico City. So there was a clash, but not nearly to the degree that we had a couple of years back.
Look at this here.
Oh, yeah. One of the things...
This is a guy shooting at airplanes, which is fucking bonkers. I mean, what kind of airplanes are those?
Those are probably civilian.
And why is he doing this?
We're seeing a change in heart of the administration in Mexico. Lopez Obrador, for the first couple of years of his presidency, followed what he called hugs, not drugs. The idea that if we don't bother the cartels, they'll just be nice. Yeah, so that didn't work out. And now he's taken a much more direct approach. And since most of the security services at the local level have been infiltrated by the cartels, he's tapped the military to do it. So the military is now taking active steps against the cartels. And if you are in a cartel, that means you need heavier weaponry to fight back. And that's why the 50 cals and things like them are starting to pop up a lot more.
And so what is the Mexican strategy in terms of utilizing the military and dealing with the cartels? What are they trying to do?
I would argue that the AMLO administration isn't to the point yet that they have a strategy, but they realize that the murder rate has reached the point that hugs, not drugs is no longer a viable option. And so they're trying to militarize the equation in the hopes that the Mexican military is more capable than this or that cartel. You can kind of break the cartel world into three groups. You've got Jalisco New Generation, the hyper-violent ones. You've got the Los Chapitos and the associated groups that are what's left of Sinaloa. They're the most capable ones for smuggling drugs. That's where the money is. And so that is where AMLO seems to be focusing his efforts. And then you've got what's left of the Zetas and the Gulf cartels, which is a very Twilight 2000 dog-eat-dog world out in eastern Mexico, which everyone's just kind of ignoring because it's not strategic. It's just violent. But it appears, and I don't want to oversell this because AMLO is clearly making this up as he goes. It appears that they think if they can put a pinch in the income, that maybe they can turn Sinaloa into the next Zetas and just break it apart. I don't think that's a very good plan, but it's better than what they've been doing for the last 2.5 years.
And what's worst case scenario with Mexico?
Worst case scenario would be if Jalisco New Generation penetrates north of the border and it changes our political discussion to be very anti-Mexico. One of the great achievements, in my opinion, of the Trump administration is convincing America's hard right that Mexicans are part of the family and taking one of the biggest looming racial issues in the United States and just dissolving it. If Americans start to think of Mexicans as drug runners again, regardless of why, that damages our most productive trading relationship and our most brilliant opportunity for our future right out of the gate.
But what is the worst case scenario in terms of the cartels overwhelming the Mexican military? Because it does seem they have.
You're asking all the fun, cheery questions.
Yeah. Well, that's why you're here, bro.
Yeah.
I'm here to get freaked out.
Our advantage with Mexico so far is because they haven't had to fight a war in a long time, that the military is not particularly competent, but it's still armed. And so when you bring it into the system, they hit with a punch that compared to the normal local security services is really impressive. But every time a armed group of the state has been brought into the fight, the cartels have found a way to corrupt it. And if you do that to the military, we could have a very real problem here. Think Chicago at the height of Al Capone, but on a national scale.
Jesus Christ.
We're not there yet, but that would be the concern.
Chicago at the height of Al Capone. It's already happened. It's already happened. He said we would be facing Chicago at the height of Al Capone. It's already happened. White people just are not being affected. At the same time, think about what he's saying. There are already 1,500 illegal grows in California. They've already broken the northern border. At the same time, we've defunded the police. Defund the police was not just a chant. Oakland mayor, not the mayor. The mayor doesn't care. Oakland chief of police crying out for help from the city council who took $14 million, reappropriated. Seattle. What was the other city? Portland. Murder up 200%. Did you hear what I said? In Seattle, Portland, murder up 200%. Murder up in LA too, in Southern California. But they defunded the police. So in Southern California, they shut down the robbery, homicide unit, and they shut down the prostitution unit. They still have homicide, but it's not robbery and homicide because they don't do robbery anymore, and they don't do prostitution anymore because they don't have enough people and the resources. So prostitution is basically legal in California. Robbery is basically legal in California. That was what that law was all about in Chicago. Same thing is true in Chicago. Because they defunded the police, they can't fight crime anymore. So if people saying, oh, it's this law in Chicago, purge law. Well, basically what's going on is they defunded the police because the people in certain areas are going to be on their own. And the police are not needed in more affluent areas because hurt people, and poor people are not going into affluent areas, and affluent areas can protect themselves. You know, gated communities got their own security. Remember in Get Out? I said this before. Gated communities got their own security. Armed guard got their own police in the gated community. They don't need police. You don't see black and white. When you reach that level, like Andrew Tate was talking about, you don't see police. My mom and them didn't talk. They don't like people in uniforms. These type of people with this type of lifestyle, they don't like people in uniforms. They don't talk to. They have people to talk to the people who wear uniforms. O.J. Simpson didn't get arrested by nobody in no uniform. Somebody with a nice Armani suit had detective came and talked to him in his $1 million home. OJ, we need to talk to you. That's how I go. He said, what's the worst case scenario with the cartels in America? Al Capone in the middle of the street. It's already happening. I showed some things where they're killing people in southern Texas, throwing people off the freeway right now, cartel. Right now, cartel, you can't be in certain areas of Texas. They got it controlled. Riding around killing people right now in hoopties and trucks. Southern California, same thing. We're not talking about it. Nothing's being done about it. But what is being done is there is a riot cell racketeering prosecution by a black female district attorney, black male judge, black cops. They lied about a warrant to go into his home, illegally obtain things. Out of 65 charges, he's only being going to trial with 6 because they illegally obtained a warrant. They lied. They lied from the beginning to the end. Everything they told the public, everything they did in this case was based on all lies. The whole racketeering methodology was based on the premise that was a lie. He never rented the car. He never arranged the murder. He was never this kingpin gangbanger who did these things. And you can't say that now because the proof got thrown out because it was a lie. Young Thug is not actually a rapper. They never said that he didn't make millions of dollars from rap. They never, none of the charges, one time did they say that he sold drugs to make money because he made millions working with Lyle Cohen, the head of music at YouTube. Gunna was the #1 artist. He made millions. They never said that. They said that he was a felonious murderer. And now They can no longer say that it was a lie. I want to know, why was the lie told initially? What was the lie? I knew it was a lie. I knew YSL was created because I worked for the VP of marketing. A lot of people who work for record companies haven't spoken up. The whole Joe Budden podcast is straight, is not to be respected. They're not a respectable media outlet because those individuals work in the industry and they know certain things. YSL is not a gang. It's laughable that YSL, that Lyle Cohen and Kevin Liles will be associated with in business with some type of gang entity. No. YSL was created by the head of marketing at 300 to play on the androgynous style of young thugger girl. YSL, Yves Saint Laurent female fashion house. It was never a gang. So now what proof does she have that it was a gang or the racketeering? And I pray, if anybody really loves Young Thug, he hasn't gone to trial yet, send my video to his attorney. Shikama helped the Bill Cosby trial. YouTubers help all the time in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. Send my video to the attorney in Young Thug's trial. Make him ask the DA and the judge about the real source of the violence. Because you said that my client was murderer and felonious and that YSL was the source of the violence and drug distribution in Atlanta, and that's not true. In fact, this YouTuber has brought out the fact with a source from the DOD and Joe Rogan that the cartel is responsible for the violence, the gangs, and the distribution of drugs in Atlanta and most American cities. Put that on the table. Because that's what this case was all about from the beginning. These black people came out, and a lot of black people supported these black people, these uppity black people in Atlanta, and said that YSL and these gangs are the reason why there's so much violence. And it turns out that there are no black gangs. That's why they on the internet. That's why everybody on No Jumper. That's why everybody on Instagram. There are no gangs, man. I've been saying this since I came on YouTube. I don't care where you go. 6ix9ine went to Chicago. It was nobody on the block. When there was a gang activity, there would have been 100 people outside. The whole Treyway, how 6ix9ine got into that whole thing. He went to somewhere. If you see that first video, they look hella goofy and broke. He bought them clothes. It wasn't a lot of niggas. Turns out all the niggas was suckers on some weird shit, kidnapping moms and saying I'm trolling. It turned out to be a bunch of weirdo niggas. 6ix9ine, because it's so hard to find a group of black men who supposedly are pookies, because like the statistics that Kevin Samuels put out, over 80% of black men are not pookie. 6ix9ine had to go to this one neighborhood to find these black men to hang around to give himself street cred. And they weren't even street credible themselves. All of them in jail now, jokes. Because there are no gangs. Casanova. If Casanova is the gang, if 6ix9ine and Treyway is the gang, where are the real people? And Seti Nash is supposed to be gang commentary. 1090 Jake, all these. This is how this bullshit is happening. OG Percy and Charleston White, who actually are gang affiliates, acting like girls, playing minstrel clown characters. Yeah, I called you a clown, OG Percy, Charleston White. Y'all clowns in the Bay Area. Y'all clowns. So how does the truth get told about what this white man said that I've always known, that Charleston White knows, that OG Percy knows? There are no gangs. Okay, everybody listening right now and the replay, if there were really black gangs, we know now that black gangs were murdered by the cartel, been murdered since 2013. If there were really truly black gangs, would Charleston White be able... I'll stop. Wait, perfect. With 6ix9ine, 6ix9ine, who's still out going to club, making money right now, Wack 100 with Wack. Okay, let's go back to Wack 100. If there were truly gangs, would Wack 100 be able to be on Clubhouse the way he is. I'm gonna tell you, I'm from California. And think about somebody from Chicago. You would not be able to be on Clubhouse and claim a gang, because the gang would sit you down and tell them to stop that gossiping little girl shit out. Because that shit look bad on Pyru. There are no gangs. If it was a bunch of young niggas active running around claiming the set that he claimed, they'd sit his bitch ass down. He gets to move the way he moves and then sign 6ix9ine because what this man said about the gangs is true. 6ix9ine gets to go around the whole country to Chicago, everywhere, flaunting all this shit with rainbow hair because what this guy said is true. 6ix9ine knew it. There are no gangs anymore. There's nobody outside. You got to be outside at a certain time, a party, something, because he's from New York, where it's a metropolis. It's a million people. Cameron with platinum in the city. And he don't see no gangs. He don't see 50 people on the corner. So that's I do my research. I've been doing, I don't know how many podcasts I got up about Young Thug in this case. And I remember talking about it on other panels and people saying, why do you know so much about this case? And it's because it's who I am, and it struck me about something about it didn't sit right. I don't listen to Young Thug's music. I don't dislike Young Thug. I'm from Northern California. We not Crips and Bloods. I'm not into slime, and I'm not young, so I'm not into the drug scene. So Young Thug was not like, he doesn't have like a Bay Area type of swag to him, like, but and then he wore a dress, so that kind of turned me off, I'll be honest. So I kind of listened to him with kind of a side eye. I understood what he was doing with marketing, which is why I can articulate so well where YSL came from, because I saw it. I didn't like it. I didn't like the dress was purple or this blue color, him on the horse with that white man loud corner. I didn't like none of it. I didn't like it. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. In the video where he looked like a girl, I didn't like it. I didn't think that the lyrics lived up to the presentation, because even to this day, I don't think Young Thug has delivered lyrically on what the presentation of him being a girl, Young Thugger girl, YSL, wearing a dress. That's why Young Thug is popular. But if you think about him compared to Lil Wayne, or those first mixtapes where Lil Wayne were influential, he's never, for me, and I'm a hip hop guy, he's never lived up to the hype of Loud Coin saying this guy is so great, he's the next Dwayne Carter and things like that. I haven't seen it. I know he's influential, right? With NBA YoungBoy, Lil Uzi, he's been influential with a lot of artists, and he may be good at making music, but as far as lyrically, I never was really satisfied with anything that he put out that lived up to the hype of the dress, of the horse, of the name of the label being named after some female label. Like, it never lived up to it for me. That's just what it is. So it's like, I'm not a fan of Young Thug. I needed to express the same thing that, after doing the Kyle Rittenhouse case, it became blaringly obvious to me that Kyle Rittenhouse did not receive an overabundance of justice. What I saw for the first time in my life is how a courtroom is supposed to work, even in this instance where someone had lost their life. The person being accused, even though someone had lost their life, like OJ, like Trayvon, the person being accused still had the presumption of innocence, even though someone had lost their life. And the burden was still on the state. And Young Thug, no one lost their life. He didn't get caught with no kid cocaine, none of that. Tory Lanez, they could not prove that he shot Meg Thee Stallion or shot. So he just got charged with some frivolous crimes that carry a lot of time to make it a high profile case. No one ever, and the same thing happened with Tupac Shakur, and Tupac got found guilty. To this day, people think Tupac did something that he didn't do. That girl never came clean and told the truth. They made a whole movie about it. And that girl who played that girl in the movie, that was a curse. You never should have played her. I don't know who told you to take that movie role and you were so excited to be in the movie because you was in love and hip hop, but that was a setup to play that girl. That was a curse. I'd never work with you. I'd never interview you. I don't know why you took that role, because the way they did the role was on some Me Too shit and made Pac look like something he wasn't. That wasn't the charge, and Pac never did that. Demographically, where do we stand as black men? Heterosexual, the American indigenous Negro. We were not slaves. We were occupied. We were indentured service after our occupation. We went to war. We fought to get our freedom back. We kept fighting even to Martin Luther King. We fought to get the hoses off of us. We fought to get the dogs off of us. Now we see that we were never slaves. They never had the ability to cross the transatlantic with great volume and consistency. They weren't that strong. They had to mix blood with us to become the people that they are now. You know how Asians are tall now? All the Asians play basketball. Well, when I was a kid, Asians were short. You know why Asians are tall now? Because they mix blood with white and black Americans. So now you got tall Asians, but they're not tall in China. They're 5'4" in China, but they come to America. You see all these tall, wide-eyed Asians. It's mixed blood. Well, when the European came here, they died. I told you the European woman could not survive in North America. If you look at any of the Westerns, look at any of the history books, it was all white men who came over here as slaves, Slavic slaves. And they died off. They couldn't hang with the cowboys, and the European women died off. It was through mixed race blood is what you got here. This Germanic, Slavic races. The women called whooping cough. That's why they had all those elixirs, life insurance, door-to-door policy. Shout out to Alonzo Hall. That's why they had those people swindling with life. The life expectancy was like 35. People live to be 50 years old. This is recent where people live to be 80 and 90. This is recent. This is a recent phenomenon. That's why China's going through what he's going through, because nobody ever used to live to be 80, 90 years old. That's why China's having this demographic crisis. Not only is China a majority senior citizen country, America is facing a demographic crisis because we're a majority retiree country. For the first time ever, the majority of the population are retirees. We don't have enough people paying taxes into the system to take care of the amount of retirees. This is what they were trying to say about Social Security. It's Social Security running out and not having enough money for Social Security. It was because they knew the pyramid would flip upside down and there would not be enough 20-year-olds working, paying into the system to take care of the old people who are retiring. Now we have more people retired than we have people working. And guess what? We created a softer, feminine nation, and they don't want to work. They don't want to fuck. So anybody like arguing the demographic issues, you have to just go outside. They were born with an iPad. They don't go to the phone. They don't go to the bathroom without their phone, but they will scared talk to a girl. You won't go to the bathroom without the phone, but if we in public at the movies, you won't talk to a girl. They're socially awkward because they were born with these advanced devices. They will have less children and have less human interaction, which means they will have less ability to govern. This is what I said. The biggest thing I saw downstream effects from the quarantine was the children's ability to govern in the future. Because they don't, my dog, I tell a story all the time. I got a dog during quarantine. And the key thing about having a dog when they're young is you have to socialize. It's called socialize them. And I'm sure there's some psychologists that could speak to a better terminology, right? But you got to take the dog out to be around other dogs and other humans besides the family so that when you're out in public, the dog doesn't attack every other thing that it sees. Think about what I'm saying. One of the things you got to do when you have a puppy is you have to socialize it. We don't talk about these psychology things. I remember I talked about Skinner, I talked about Pavlov, and people don't like when I use the dog analogies, but that's why the German scientists used them because they extrapolated so much. Skinner used rats, Pavlov used dogs. If you don't socialize the dog will be unable to integrate into society as a whole. What does that remind you of? And I know people are not going to like this analogy, but this is what's happened to the inner city youth, why they act like they act around authority. Whenever you see one of these young teenagers getting to an altercation with a police officer or a manager, they don't know how to act. They haven't been socialized properly, domesticated. I know it's a fucked up term. I don't have a better term. Y'all can help me out in the replay in the comments. So if my dog now is struggling and may struggle for the rest of her life with these social aspects and social cues, how are the kids gonna do who had to go through quarantine? Who didn't have, because some of the affluent kids in California were still able to go to school. They didn't go to school at home because I believe they understood this factor that I'm talking about. Those will be the new governors in the future because they will be the ones who will be able to govern properly, interact with other people with disagreeing ideas, and come up with an idea, that's viable for all. That's what the right and the left wing is supposed to be about. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party is that we're supposed to be able to be these adults, psychologically ability to argue different points and come up what's best as a whole. That's what the bodies were created for. It's failing, but that's what it's supposed to be able to do. So who will have the mental capacity to do that going forward after quarantine? $15 votes to get Kevin in. 15 votes. So these kids have been quarantined. They grew up on iPads. They're socially awkward. They don't go on dates. They won't talk to people. How are they going to govern the house? How are they going to make laws? Okay. Or keep law. Y'all see the problem? Man, I used to do these 3-hour shows all the time, man. It's been a cool show, man. I did not mean to do it this long, but I really enjoyed doing this show today. I pray you all enjoyed the show. Pray for my wife, Mrs. Perfect Timing. Pray a covering over you, baby. I love you so much. I pray a covering over the whole family. Everybody watching and listening. Thank y'all for watching and hanging out with your boy, Perfect Timing. Been a good show, man. Anybody want to say something? Everybody seem to jet out. I know people busy. I gotta get something to eat. It's Taco Tuesday. Watch a Taco Tuesday on the PTP TV network. Watch a Taco Tuesday. Do I gotta watch a Taco Tuesday banner? Watch your Taco Tuesday. Super Taco. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Watch your Taco Tuesday. Super Taco. Perfect Timing Podcast in the building, man. Thank y'all for rocking with me, man. I'm gonna get up out of here. Salute. I need to end it with some music. Nah, I'm going to just end it. I could play some music after I'm done. Nobody watching but me anyway. I just want to say thank you and thank God. I pray covering over this podcast, over my microphone, over myself. I want to say thank you for keeping me in this time. I want to say thank you for the growth. It's been amazing, man. I'm like everybody else. I hate going through trials and tribulations, but the growth that's obtained from going through something difficult is amazing. And I love the person that comes out the other end, right? I love the knowledge that I gained from with the scar, right? But man, I'm just like everybody else, man. I don't like going to the dentist, so I don't like the lashings. I don't like the scar. It don't feel good, man. The scar don't feel good. The pain don't feel good. But what feels good is what comes out on the other end. That's what I would say to my son and to young men who avoid the lashing, who avoid the chastisement. I feel sorry for you because you not know who you are because you haven't been tested. Don't run from every test. Don't run from every challenge. Don't run from every loss. That's what we talked about today. Don't run from every loss. And I've lost a lot in my journey and my goal here every day. It's difficult. But like I talked about today, I've negotiated a surrender. So I told you guys I'm gonna put my Rumble link. Put my Rumble link. Because I negotiated the surrender, right? It's true. We gotta know how to negotiate a surrender that benefits us, right? And yes, you might say, perfect. The people who hate you will just follow you to Rumble. That's true. Follow me to Rumble. Just make sure you hit the like. Just make sure you hit the like. There go my Rumble right there. Y'all hit that. Check me out on Rumble. I'm gonna create a Bigo next. Y'all remind me. Create a Bigo next. I surrender. I'm gonna create a Bigo next. Y'all remind me. And there goes my Rumble. And make sure y'all subscribe to my Patreon. And I'm gonna start doing live streams over there as soon as I don't have no patrons right now. So as soon as I start see y'all fucking with the Patreon and watching the videos that I got over there, then we're gonna start doing some live streams. Salute.